Mr. Gibbons, would you like to reopen the meeting?
Flag salute, please. Thank you. We have several presentations we're going to begin with.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons, for reopening. We have 3 presentations. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. And the first presentation will be Mr. Michael Savino, and he will be introduced by Ms. Diane Thiemann, the middle school principal.
Just to interrupt, Dr. Haynes, should we start with the roll call or do that after our presentation period?
Open Public Records Act? Okay. Yep. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting the interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ridgefield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Municipal Building, and Board of Education offices, as well as the district website. Public participation instructions. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually, telephonically via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during public participation will need to hit 9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The business administrator, board secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order that they raise their hand.
Thank you, Mrs. Grabstein.
You're welcome.
Roll call.
Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Mr. Feitros? Mr. Feitros?
He's trying to log into the other section.
He's on Zoom, I can see him.
No.
Mr. Feitros, if you can hear us, you're on mute right now. If you could come off mute for a roll call. There he goes. Good.
He's here.
Mr. Feitros here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Gomes?
Present.
Ms. O'Neill? Here. Ms. Rodriguez? Here. Mr. Thiemann? Here. Mr. Verselli?
Here.
Mr. Cathcart?
Here.
President Gibbons?
Here.
Also present, Acting Superintendent Dr. Barry Haynes, Board Secretary and School Business Administrator Carrie Grabstein, State Monitor Mr. Wayne Demikoff, and Board Attorney Ms. Carrie Wright.
Thank you. If we could begin with our presentations, thank you very much.
No on off, just start speaking. Nice and close.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you that just walked in, Dr. Haynes had introduced me. I am Ms. Diane Thiemann. I'm the middle school principal. Extremely proud of our middle schoolers. This has obviously been a challenging year due to the remote option and in school and out of school, but our students thrived throughout this entire year. One of the areas that our students really thrived in was in something called Project Citizen. I'm going to leave Mr. Savino to speak to you about what that is. But first, I want to take a moment to speak about the teacher, Mr. Savino. Mr. Savino's direct supervisor just retired and is living in Indiana and currently in Wisconsin, but she asked me to say a few words on her behalf as well. And some of those words are outstanding, work ethic unparalleled to anyone she's ever met before. She has said that it has been her true pleasure to be the supervisor for Mr. Savino all these years. He truly goes above and beyond consistently and constantly for his students. During the pandemic, I joked about Mr. Savino becoming an 18-hour teacher. His exceptional work ethic shined through. I spoke to parents as recently as today and asked them to give me some feedback to share with you this evening. Exceptional communicator. That was the one statement that kept coming through with every single parent. He sent out weekly emails to all of his parents, individualized, so that everyone knew exactly how their child was performing in his class. He gave status updates. He got to know each one of his children individually. He has been called a challenging teacher, but every parent will attest to the fact that after leaving Mr. Savino's room, the children are truly prepared to move on to high school. The RP community has always been about volunteerism, and Mr. Savino is absolutely an example of that. Mr. Savino has volunteered for numerous activities this year, and for that, I am extremely appreciative. RP is also about family involvement. And Mr. Savino truly emulates that in everything he does, especially when it comes to the love he has for his wife. And she shared her husband with us all this year when Mr. Savino was working from home and we were all remote. Mr. Savino, if you wouldn't mind coming up here for a moment, please. We will have student presentations, but first, Mr. Savino would like to share with all of you projects.
No sé, de verdad, no he sacado no sé ni a las 8 o las 9, no sabría decirte, de verdad.
Not really prepared for. Thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank the board for the opportunity. It's not always that I get a chance to address you all. I've been before you a few times over the years. But for those of you that are unfamiliar with what we do in the civics program, the Center for Civic Education is way out in Calabasas, California. And they oversee this project in all 50 states, as well as internationally. They have a program called Civitas, which takes this Project Citizen program really all over the world, and various countries and Africa, and like Senegal. And so it's become very well known in the several decades that it's been around. And I first got involved in the program probably within a couple of years after being here. I came here after serving 9 years in Elizabeth. I came up here in September of 2000. So I've been around the block a little bit and been involved in Project Citizen ever since I found out about it. I just fell in love with the program. And as I said, it's been around for decades. And they've been trying to get more and more schools to be involved in this project. And again, for those of you that aren't that familiar with it, I know there are a few members of the board whose students have been through the program and know firsthand what it's all about and some of the rigor that goes into it. But the students basically start by researching problems in their community, talking to their parents, interviewing their parents, and really anybody else I encourage them to communicate with that are adults that know something about issues in the community. And that's where it all starts. And then they try to narrow down to a singular topic that they can focus on for the remainder of the year. And then it's all about identifying existing and alternative means of dealing with that issue, dealing with that problem, and eventually developing our own policy initiatives for what we think should be done and how that issue, that problem should be handled at the government level. And it could be a district issue, one that maybe is just particular to the school or the district. It could be a local community issue. It could be a statewide issue. It could even be a national issue. But we try to do it democratically. We try to get the students to identify what issues they think are important, and we narrow it down through a democratic process, discussion and voting and various things. And then we hone in on that. Once we develop some policy initiatives that we want to pursue, we develop very, very concrete action steps that we want to take. We identify the right people at the government level, whichever level that is, depending on the topic, of course. It could be school administration, district-wide administration, state level people, whatever it is. And throughout the course of our time, and it really is a year-long project that starts in the fall and goes all the way through until pretty late into May. They break down into 4 groups, and they focus on really drilling down into describing the nature of the problem, what all the different alternatives are that have been suggested for dealing with the problem. They delve into what various alternatives might be, and we develop what we think are the best initiatives to be pursued for this problem, and then we go after it from there. The students eventually personally lobby in a number of ways. They do that through traditional letter writing and electronic lobbying online, now that we have that technology, that ability. And eventually even meeting in person with these government leaders, and they take what they've learned in the classroom and apply it in oral dialogue with these government leaders. So it really is a very, very collaborative, it's a very democratic, it's very action-oriented, hands-on approach to dealing with government issues, taking what we learn in the classroom and really trying to put some rubber wheels on it and really get it moving and make it real for them. All of this culminates toward the end of the year in a display of their research and their policy suggestions. They do that in the way of showcases. That's what they're called, student showcases. After we do our in-class oral presentations to whomever we are lobbying in person. This past year, it was with Assemblyman Gary Scher, who is our assemblyman here in Legislative District 36. And he met with us personally, of course, by way of Zoom. And so he was one of the key people that we lobbied. And of course, we letter lobbied a whole slew of other people and had invited some other people to meet with us. And of course, being the busy people that they are, we can't always get folks to meet with us personally, although we try. We try very hard to do that. But everything culminates in showcases. And so showcases ever since around the year 2012, because of government budget cuts, they've gone digital. It used to be that the 2 honors classes that participate in this project eventually get judged by our school and district-wide administration, and they get scored. And based on the scores that I receive, we have to identify one class, and that one class represents us down at Rutgers University. And at Rutgers University, they've got a panel of judges that they use every year, and the schools from around the state that submit these projects get evaluated by the judges down at Rutgers, the Civic Center down at Rutgers, the Center for Civic Education down at Rutgers. They coordinate this student showcase. And then out of all the schools that get submitted from New Jersey, one school is chosen to represent the state of New Jersey. And the state then is represented at the national showcase. And the national showcase is sponsored by the National Conference of State Legislatures. And they have a conference every year in the summer. And these projects that are submitted nationally go through a very, very rigorous evaluation. About 3-4 different times by different sets of people, they are evaluated. And I'm very proud of the fact that since the 2008-2009 school year, we've managed to take the state competition 13 times since that. I'm sorry, the last 13 years, we've taken the state competition 9 times. out of those 13 years. We've taken second place at least 2-3 times. One time we took third place. One time we missed they had a very early submission date. We just couldn't quite get our project there in time. So that's a very, very impressive track record. We're very proud of that. We're proud of the work that our students do here in Ridgefield Park. These guys, I have to say, our honor students that come through our building here, they literally take just about everything I throw at them. And I'm sure in their dreams, they're throwing a lot of stuff at me too at night. I can just imagine when they're sleeping at night, they're probably beating me in their dreams, but it's a rigorous thing that we put them through, but they always come out shining. And like I say, I'm just so proud of the fact that we've taken the state 9 times, and then we go to the national level, and very, very consistently, the projects that these guys do end up getting some of the highest rankings. They're rated superior, exceptional, and then there's 2 other levels, and we always seem to make the top 1 or 2 tiers. And so very, very proud of what these folks do. We've even been recognized by legislative proclamation from Trenton for the work that we do here. So again, we're very, very proud of that. This past year's period 5B honors class, some of whom are here tonight, standing back here in the corner. The title of their project this year was Drastic Plastics, Bottle Deposit Return Systems and Other Initiatives for Dealing with the Problem of Plastic Pollution. And so we've got many of our class representatives here tonight, a couple of which would like to share a few words with you, if you don't mind, if you can indulge us just a few more minutes. I'd like to have Aaliyah Alonso come on up here, and Akai Sai. And these 2 are going to share some of their thoughts from this past year.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening. My name is Aaliyah. I'm going to be reading my essay that I wrote as a reflection on Project Citizen. This year, my classmates and I had an assignment to lobby a representative about an important issue in our community. Okay. We first started by interviewing our parents on what they thought needed to be addressed. Our 2 top problems were the COVID-19 pandemic and bottle bill deposits. As a class, we voted to work on the bottle bill deposits and get a bill passed that will put them into effect, increasing the amount of plastic that gets recycled. We then began doing research and putting together our information to write group documents on our assigned portions. The next step was to find out who our representatives are and contact them so that we could describe the issue and present a slideshow that we were working on. We presented the slideshow to Assemblyman Gary Scher and our administrators. I believe that we worked really hard as a class and learned a variety of new things in the process. One aspect of the project was working together to achieve a greater goal. I believe that working with my classmates made it much easier, although the dynamic of not attending school in person added a challenge. Overall, contributing as a group is something that results in astounding progress in a short period of time. A disadvantage, however, would be that communication has to be at an optimum level for efficiency. If one member of the group does not understand who has to do what exactly, they can fall behind or cause further confusion. Using the Google Docs and Google Slides applications as our main platforms was something that I particularly enjoyed. It made the process much easier and also allowed for our work to be easily shared and edited. I learned more about animating the slideshow that we put together, and it was quite interesting. In addition, I learned to have speaker notes on the side as opposed to simply reading what was already being presented. This allowed for a more interesting presentation. Furthermore, using online tools allowed for everything to be centered, neat, and include colorful graphics without having to print anything out. As a class, I believe that we learned more about coordination, especially when we had to remember which slides we were to present. The slideshow presentation was, in my opinion, the largest part of the project. We needed to make sure everyone had a slide to read and that they were in the correct order. If someone was absent, the group needed to ensure that the show would go on and be organized so that the next slide would be read. The project as a whole sharpened our problem-solving skills, whether it was from searching for captivating graphics or simply organizing the members of a group. In conclusion, working on Project Citizen this year was an interesting experience. I got to work with my classmates and get a large amount of work done in a short period of time. The platforms that we used online made the whole process run very smoothly. Finally, working on a project allowed for us all to learn how to work together and giving a presentation. Doing this project helped me learn more about how plastic can harm our environment and how I can influence change in my community. Thank you.
Great job, Aaliyah. Our next student presenter is Akai Sai.
Over the course of the 2020 to 21 school year, my class and I worked on Project Citizen. We've conducted surveys, ranked/graded issues, researched and documented information, lobbied representatives in government, and even presented to them. It has been a wild ride from start to finish, and I'll reflect on our work in the next couple of paragraphs. First, let's talk about what the whole project was about: public policy. Public policy is a type of response to a problem that government officials make that talks about what they will do to address it. In Project Citizen, my class and I made public policy by addressing the problem, plastic pollution, and suggesting solutions. My group's part of the project was to write about existing and alternative policies. Some public policies that we suggested were bottle deposits, curbside recycling, and glass alternatives to plastic, to name a few. Researching, recording, and writing down everything about the alternative/existing policies that we had been assigned taught us about public policy, what it is, and how to make it. While working on this project, there were some things that I liked and others not so much. My favorite part of Project Citizen was lobbying representatives in government. I sent an email as well as a letter to U.S. Senator Cory Booker. It felt like an achievement to be able to communicate with one of the most important people in America. Unfortunately, we did not get a response back as of yet, but we can still hope. Another thing that I thought was fun in the very beginning of the school year. When we were starting Project Citizen, we first had to conduct surveys to find out what everyone wanted to research. Everyone from the class first gave some ideas. Then, everyone voted on the main ones. After narrowing it down to just a couple, we ultimately decided on the worldwide problem of plastic pollution. I liked this part because it showed us working together as a democracy to decide on something that affected the rest of the year. Now for some things that weren't as fun. As many would agree, it wasn't too exciting to research and record information about our topic. Even though it was an important step, it wasn't as fun as the rest. While doing this project, I developed some skills. One important one was lobbying. I had no idea that you could send a letter to someone in government and that they would actually respond. I thought that it would be like sending a card to a famous singer. You would probably just get a thank you letter back from their secretary. Fortunately, many people can lobby, no matter the age or status. Our class even got to present, although virtually, to Assemblyman Gary Scher. It felt great to have the potential to make a difference in government and maybe even the world. As well as myself, our class as a whole also developed some skills. I think the biggest one was working together. Mr. Savino put us into 4 separate groups to work on various parts of Project Citizen. I had the pleasure of working with Andres, Ava, Gabriela, Leah, and Yvette in Group 2. We conducted meetings on our own time to discuss and plan what we were going to do. We evenly split up the work that needed to be done and completed it in the time required. This taught us the important lesson of planning, as well as working together as a team. As well as personal skills, I also developed some problem-solving skills with my group. They weren't big problems, but problems nonetheless. For example, we had some scheduling conflicts. When some people were available, others were not. We solved this problem by having multiple meetings, like the telephone game we played as kids. Andres, the chairman, first had a meeting with me, the vice chairman, to talk about what we would be/are doing. Later in the week, I had a meeting with Ava and Gabriela to tell them what we had talked about. Then Andres had a meeting with Leah and Yvette to talk with them. This shows how we solved this problem as a team. Now that we've talked about everything I did with my team, let's talk about some advantages and disadvantages to having a team. As I talked about above, having a team was good because we got to help each other out with parts of the project. If anyone had a question, someone else had the answer. A disadvantage was that we did have to spend some of our own time to have meetings and work together. Without teams, we would each do 1 or 2 slides by ourselves, which would be much faster. If I had the choice, I would still want to have kept the teams though. If I were to do it again, what would I do? Well, I would probably want to have more team meetings. We could have gone over our slides in the presentation to make sure that it was perfect for the people we presented to. Unfortunately, we didn't do that, but I still think our project was still great. I'm very grateful for the opportunity of completing Mr. Savino's Project Citizen. I had so much fun doing it. Plus, my team and I learned so many things. In my first year of middle school, I'm very happy that Project Citizen showed me a preview of how the rest of my time here would go.
Thank you, Kaisai, for reading your excellent reflection essay. I just want to point out that the students that are being represented of Mr. Savino's 5th period class are in the middle school, but they are the youngest. They are 7th graders. So I think they did an exceptional job. So if we could just give them one more round of applause.
Thank you, Project Citizen, Alyssa and Sakai, and Mr. Savino for advising our future leaders of America. Thank you so much. Great job, guys.
Students from 5B, we're going to call you up just when you come up, if you could just be careful with the wires. So we have with us tonight, Aaliyah Alonzo. Daksha Bandan. Preston Brady. Yvette Cardona. Cece Shockey. Leah Crawford. Ava Jacobson. Caleb Lee. Abigail Liriano. Ashley Nagel. Congratulations, Ashley. Nadia Otulio. Ryan Resio. Gali Sanchez. Akai Sai. Thank you again to all of our Project Citizen winners. We are so proud of you. If all of our students can come up to the center of the table, and we're going to take some pictures. If everybody could come up at once. Just be careful of the wires, guys. So it's still in the judging, and so they're already at that next level. Yeah, so they're getting closer and closer.
Before we leave you folks, as the students are exiting, I just want to make a quick comment on something I forgot to mention. Those of you that have not seen this project yet, you can go to livebinders.com, livebinders.com. That's our digital platform. And you just have to punch in there in the search bar, drastic plastics, and it should come up and you'll be able to see what our project looks like. All right, thanks very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Savino. We have a second presentation as we have some photo opportunities out in the hall, which is great. As they're assembling. The second one is a new program that we're introducing to the high school. It's a rotational program in our phys ed department for archery. We have two presenters. Come on over. Mr. Mark Olson, who I looked up, and he, I think he's part of every office in Ridgefield Park, but tonight he's representing the Board of Recreation and the Green Team as part of archery in the Board of Recreation. And Alex Quintanilla, who's in our phys ed department, he's a teacher at our high school who will be teaching the archery rotation. Come on down.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. I'm actually the commissioner responsible for Board of Rec, which is how I get into this. And I'm not sure how recently you learned about archery and the possibility of it being a program in the school. For me, it goes back to when Mr. Donahue was principal. He had set up a meeting with me and the athletic director and I. And I have to say, since then, every principal, member of the athletic department, superintendent, or other person I've talked to has been in favor of this program, which is really good to see. It's a wonderful program. There used to be archery in the school. It was more than likely not NASP. NASP stands for National Archery in the Schools Program, which has been around for about 20 years. They have standardized equipment that the students use. If you want to see any of this, the Board of Rec has it. Standardized method that's used. There have been no accidents, which is really incredible. 0 accidents in 20 years and 20 million students that have gone through the program that they do. Archery is a very inclusive sport. You wouldn't necessarily think about it, but there are archers that have various challenges. Just a few weeks ago, I helped one of our archers who's actually blind. And I got to tell you, I was kind of nervous, but he helped me through it. And it worked out really well. We're kind of here tonight as partially as a result of COVID. The Board of Rec, I wanted to start an archery program with Board of Rec, but I had no intention of doing it as early as we did. We did it as a result of COVID because it was one of the only things people could do in social distance. As a result of that, we had a training class for instructors, which are called basic archery instructors that NASP certifies. And Mr. Quintanilla is one. He came to our class and he immediately started to work on getting this program together. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Good evening, guys. Thank you. First off, really excited to be here, trying to get archery to Ridgefield Park. I am a grant school graduate of class of '96, and I went to Ridgefield Park High School, graduated 2002. I made my way over to West Virginia University, where I really took a passion for archery because they did have archery classes that we did teach for phys ed and health. And then just to have the opportunity to try to bring it back to Ridgefield Park, really wanted to jump on that opportunity and get archery back here. So the main reason and one of the biggest reasons I like this program is the safety aspect of it. Safety teaches our students responsibility and respect for one another as well. So I thought that was very, very important when it comes to archery. Another thing that it helps out is the physical development, your hand-eye coordination, your stamina that you're pulling a bow back, your core strength, that helps out a lot. Archery also teaches a growth mindset. When young archers learn, we try to make them learn not to get too emotional on one of their shots. Instead of attaching their self-worth to their performance, they will learn to analyze their shot, and with a cool mind, they would improve in the next round. And that's one of the things that archery does. Archery, and this is the biggest one that I think is a big improvement, it improves mental toughness. And I think that's very important for our students now. Just by practicing archery, young archers will develop focus, patience, and they will learn to stay self-motivated. And as Mr. Olson said, it's very inclusive as well. And I'd be honored to be teaching that class at the high school. It's a rotational class. And when he talks about inclusive, it's anybody with a disability as well, but it kind of evens out the playing field as well. If someone who's, let's just take, for instance, 6 foot, strong, muscular, or someone who's 5'2", a little bit skinnier, they're on the same playing field in archery when it comes to the sport. And I really like that aspect of it as well. But I really do hope this gets brought to Ridgefield Park. And I think the students would definitely benefit from it. And thank you for letting me come up and talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson, Alex Quintanilla, Dr. Haynes, and Trustee Gomez for bringing this to our attention initially.
I just want to offer, I got a little time if anybody has any questions. Mr. Quintanilla and I would be happy to answer. No? Okay.
Can you guys hear me at home? Can you guys give us an overview of how the program will run between rec and the school? I mean, does the school have to lay out for new equipment and things like that?
The range down behind the DPW, which is where we have it right now, is an approved NASP range. We have approved NASP equipment. So right now, the school could do the program and do the shooting portion at the DPW. Now that does present some complications because you would have to bus the students there. But the rest of it would work out. The course is approved, all the equipment's approved. So, I mean, that's something you're gonna have to decide on your own. But the rest of it works. I'm retired, I could help Alex down there on days when he needs it. I'm a certified instructor, the same as Alex is.
Personally excited. Thank you so much for presenting. And Mr. Thiemann, did you?
There is one thing I want to add. Archery, particularly this kind of archery, is not about accuracy, it's about consistency. Accuracy is when you may hit the bullseye 1 out of 5 times. Consistency is you put the arrow in the same place, same general place every time. You can make the adjustment to hit the middle if you can be consistent. So it's all about consistency.
I think Mr. Olson also, I think Ms. Rodriguez would like to have a conversation with you, as all of us as board members, for the green team. That's the next one. Good. We have a third presentation this evening, and that is elevating Miss Erin Aguilar, the nurse, who's going to speak to us a little bit about COVID in our community currently. For those of you who are following along on the bulletin, page 4 is where the new archery program was introduced, if you wanted to look at that, and it gives you some more information about that. And I'll ask, you're good? Okay. If we could elevate, there she is.
I'm here. Can you hear
Nurse
me?
Aguilar, you have the floor. Yep.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haynes. I just wanted to take a few minutes just to discuss some things that we sat down and discussed the other day with Dr. Haynes in regards to reopening in September. We are already planning what's going to happen come September, just waiting on some information from various different organizations. A few different things have come out over the past couple weeks. CDC is recommending masks be worn for indoors for anybody that's unvaccinated. American Academy of Pediatrics just came back saying that all children aged 2 and above in school should be wearing masks. We're still waiting on the Department of Education and the Department of Health. I just did speak with HARP the other day, which is who we use here at Ridgefield Park. They're out of Hackensack. We use them as our health department. They have no updated information as of yet, but we are planning to hopefully have that information by the end of the summer. We do go along with whatever they recommend, and they usually follow the Department of Health guidelines along with Department of Education. We do plan on sending out a survey to our community, just kind of asking a few questions to see where parents stand, just so we can get a better understanding of how everybody feels and what they'd like to see in the schools come September. Through this survey, we plan on asking if your child is vaccinated or not. Again, this is information that you don't have to answer. It's completely up to you. We are going to also send that out to teachers. Teachers have been great this year. They have responded to a lot of the nurses in the district, telling them if they have been vaccinated. We're going to, again, send that out. If anybody has been newly vaccinated, we can update our list just so we know where we stand. The survey is also going to ask if your child is not vaccinated, when they are able to get vaccinated, do you intend to have them vaccinated? And we're also going to ask the question if parents plan on sending their child to school wearing a mask, would rather not wearing a mask, or if it is optional. So we intend to share these survey results in the August meeting. That survey is probably going to go out the first or second week of August. Once we have that information, we're going to sit down and wait for the Department of Health and Department of Education executive orders to come out, hopefully late August, and then make a determination to see what's best for our school districts. Does anybody have any questions? Nope, I don't think so.
Thank you again, Nurse
Okay.
Aguilar. Always
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Dr. Haynes.
Thank you.
And that is the end of the superintendent report. Mr. Gibbons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mrs. Grabstein. Do we have minutes to move from previous?
We do not, Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you. Communications.
Communications, were there any communications?
I just wanted to report a little bit about the construction projects because I've been asked about timelines. In working with the architect, I was told that the bus loop project at the high school is expected to start about August 1st and with a possible completion date of September 1st. The emergency lighting at the elementary schools, as well as the auditorium lighting at the high school, an expected start date of August 1st and expected completion date of September 30th. Curtain wall abatement will start approximately August 7th, And the window replacement and the remainder of that project is expected to go into the end of January 2022. The gym ceiling and the gym floor did start on July 16th, and that is expected to be completed somewhere around September 1st. In time for school would be ideal.
Thank you, Mrs. Grabstein.
You're welcome.
Committee reports. We could start with buildings and grounds, trustee Cathcart.
Just that, I don't know if the community is aware of it, but there's quite an extensive building project being completed over on Challenger Drive, which is approximately 1,550 units. Mrs. Rodriguez and myself were at a planning board meeting. These will take years to build, by the way. But part of those projects are COLA set-asides, which is 10% of the buildings, which is going to have a direct effect on the school. Now, the builder used a Rutgers model. So those numbers are skewed in favor of the builder. We've commissioned the study. The board has it. We'll discuss it at the next planning board buildings and grounds meeting. It looks like there's going to be an impact on the school. The total number could be between 80 and 126. Some of those units are 2 and 3 bedroom units. So you have 1,550 units being built on Challenger Drive. Secondly, myself and Carrie and Barry were at a meeting with the mayor who's building a nature walk over here, and we looked at some issues pertaining to parking and access. So they're going to make some changes on that. We're also very concerned about delivery schedule and time of building because you have to deliver the materials. So we asked them not to deliver between 7:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning because of the school buses. And that's my report.
Thank you, trustee Cathcart. Trustee Thiemann, personnel. Trustee Rodriguez, faculty and programs.
The Faculty and Program Committee met on Tuesday, July 13th. All committee members were present: Dr. Martinez, Mrs. O'Neill, myself, Mr. Gomes, Mr. Gibbons, Dr. Haynes, and also our attorney, Mr. Disler. We discussed and recommitted to the Sustainable Jersey for Schools. I just want to point out that the Ridgefield Park Village actually earned Sustainable New Jersey Silver certification. And tonight we saw students from Mr. Savino's class providing us information. Those are artifacts. We as a community and also as a district, I strongly believe we already are doing. We are green, but we should be recognized. And with recognition comes grants, money. So New Jersey Sustainability is a free and it's voluntary. It's a certification program for public schools in New Jersey. And we recommitted at our F&P meeting. We also discussed the Fontes and Pinnell reading program implementation for the upcoming school year and the importance of providing support for our ELL students. We reviewed the volunteer policy and its expectation of making agreed upon changes. We discussed researching a district feasibility study to offer universal pre-K in our communities and in our school. We confirmed that the state will be performing a CUSAC audit on our district this year, and we are currently in the process of forming CUSAC committees and updating our curriculum to meet the standards. We also discussed increasing ways to to collaborate the communication with Little Ferry too. And we also confirmed that there's a Board of Ed retreat tomorrow night, Thursday, from 6 to 9, and the public is invited. It's going to be in the library.
Thank you, trustee Rodriguez. Trustee O'Neill, policy.
The policy committee met on July 13th at 5:30 p.m. In attendance were Dr. Martinez, myself, Mrs. Rodriguez, Mr. Disler, Mr. Gomes, Mr. Gibbons, and Dr. Haynes. We made mandatory and recommended changes to policies relating to the COVID-19 Response Act, evaluations of teachers, procedures for school nutrition programs, and career and technical education. We also reviewed our school volunteer policy in expectations of making agreed upon changes and the policies regarding participation in board meetings. We will have another meeting next month.
Thank you, Trustee O'Neill. Trustee Fernandez, Finance.
Thank you, President Gibbons. Our committee did not meet, but in lieu of a meeting, we did have an email transactions with our previous board administrator, where he explained to us where our fund balances were going to be at the end of the year. We just received the final financials, where we plan to review them more thoroughly and have a better overview. We plan to have another meeting during next month as well.
Thank you. That concludes committee reports. We have the superintendent's report next.
And those were the three presentations you saw.
And I'm
So we're
sorry,
good.
do we have an
It's okay,
update on
Mr.
social
Gibbons.
justice? I know Trustee Martinez is not here at the moment, but if we do, I just wanted to make sure.
No, there's no update.
Thank you. I apologize. Dr. Haynes?
Give me a mic and I'll use it. It's dangerous, so all good. Monitors report.
Mr. Demikoff, the monitors report?
Yes. I would like to begin by publicly thanking all those who sent me letters and emails regarding the suspension with pay of Dr. Angela Bender, Superintendent of Schools for the Ridgefield Park School District. Since this matter is currently in litigation, I will take no action, since any action or statement made by me could be interpreted as being for or against the action taken by the board, or in support or non-support of Dr. Bender. Many residents have asked me, what will this litigation cost the taxpayers of Ridgefield Park? That amount is unknown, but it could be substantial. Any additional funding for this litigation was not included in the 2021-2022 school budget. With that in mind, I made a recommendation on June 23rd at the public meeting that the board rescind resolution FI 185 that was approved at their April 28th, 2021 board meeting that approved 2 additional interest-free loan payments totaling $500,000 to the state of New Jersey. I believed at that time it was better to be safe than sorry, and every measure should be taken to reduce the risk of another deficit should this litigation cost be excessive. Additional loan payments could be made to the state at a later date when the district knew its financial position that would result from this litigation. The board rejected my recommendation. No further comments.
Thank you, Mr. Demikoff. Are we moving on to, do we have a superintendent's report? Okay. Yeah. We're going to move on to.
President Gibbons, I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
At the last meeting, Dr. Martinez was going to make a motion to take back that money, and you guys said you were going to have a finance meeting to discuss that. Did that ever take place? Or
As discussed, in lieu of a meeting, we did a email with recommendations from our previous BA, which all the committee members were on. The payment was made prior to our emails, prior to the 4th of July, which would have been in the ending of June 30th, I believe. But that check was already made prior to us even having a discussion of having a meeting.
Thank you.
I'm confused. So the check was made prior to the meeting?
In lieu of a meeting, we had an email.
And all committee members?
Yes.
Agreed to that? Every single committee member agreed
I
to that?
believe so, yes.
Unless there's anything else, we're going to move on to citizens' comments on agenda items. And I have a statement to read before. As discussed in our policy meeting, before we begin public comment, we'd like to outline the process the board uses, which has been put into place to ensure everyone is given an opportunity to speak and be heard. Each member of the public is given 3 minutes to speak. I'll let you know when your 3 minutes is up. We also have a visual timer now as well for everyone. While usually 3 minutes is enough time, we understand there are instances where additional time may be needed. In those situations, please let me know if you need an additional time after you finish your comment. Those that make that request will be given a second opportunity to speak for an additional 2 minutes after everyone else in the public has been given a chance to speak. Once we confirm everyone who would like to speak has had the opportunity to do so, I will call the names of those indicated that would need additional time. Provide they have 2 minutes to speak. I'll let you know when the additional 2 minutes is over as well. And we do have a visual timer on the smart board. Thank you.
Mr. Gibbons, give us just a minute. We're going to turn the podium around so the public can address the Board of Education.
Thank you. And are we having the, oh, okay.
Yeah, is there a timer, Nancy?
There is, Nancy has a timer.
Will it come up? Okay, go. Okay, go.
Mrs. Wright, if you could read the new resolution that we have.
Sure. Give me 1 second to pull it up.
Thank you.
Thought I had it at the top of my email. Okay, so an additional agenda item is the following. It will be P25, And it reads as follows: be it resolved that Dr. Barry Haynes hereby is appointed as acting superintendent pending approval in accordance with NJAC 6A9B-13.1 and pending commissioner approval. For the board's benefit, this is a revised version of the resolution that was passed by the board at its last meeting at the request of the executive county superintendent. It has minor revisions to the resolution that was passed at your last meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can move. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wright. We could start with citizens' comments on agenda items. And we have 3 minutes. Is the timer going to be visible to me as well? Okay.
We are the Scarlet News. Yep.
Thank you. If not,
Susan DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place.
I'm sorry, can
I'm
you speak a
sorry,
little louder? State your name and your address, please.
15 Homestead Place.
sorry, we couldn't hear, ma'am.
FI6, why do we still have busing overtime?
Busing overtime?
Yes, ma'am.
There was busing overtime from June, and that was approved by the former business administrator. I would have to look into that to find out exactly what that overtime was for.
Okay. P15 through 19, I'd like to know who interviewed these people, and are any of them known or related to anybody in the district?
I'll go ahead and put out a public statement on the website about that to answer those
I
questions.
can't hear you.
I'll go ahead and put out a public statement on our website to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, Little Ferry.
Good evening.
Good evening. What is the technical difference between Dr. Haynes' previous title of acting interim superintendent and acting superintendent? Why are we putting a resolution on it? Is that legality?
It's acting superintendent as far as it's not interim.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for the clock, Nancy, too. It's working out well.
Diane McNeil, 575 Teaneck Road.
Good evening.
I just have a question on the resolution for the Board of Education. I should have brought the minutes up with me. The Board of Education Development. Who goes to that and when is it?
I'm sorry, I don't know what the Board of
I'll look.
Education Development. Oh, the board retreat.
The retreat and goal setting workshop.
The retreat and goal setting workshop is set up by, actually by me as a recommendation to the board to set board goals and agenda items and governance, to talk about governance. It is a discussion. There is no action taken during this meeting and is presented by an outside consultant.
So does the entire board attend?
The
And when
entire
is
board
that?
attends, yes,
And when is it?
tomorrow night,
Thank you.
6 to 9.
And the public, I just want to add, the public can attend too. I think the last retreat was back in October and it was via Zoom. So before being elected to the board, I attended that retreat as a member of the public.
So is there a sunshine notification for that says the whole board is in attendance to set goals?
It's
It
actually
went out.
board
It's a,
meeting.
yes.
It was already published.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. If there's no one else, we're going to move on to resolutions. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, hello. Can
Good
you hear me
evening.
okay? Good evening. I'm Suheni Perez Sadler, 139 over Peck Avenue. I heard from the Finance Committee saying that you met, or actually you didn't have a meeting. It was scheduled through an email. And our state monitor, Mr. Demikoff, mentioned about his really strong recommendation, which the Finance Committee rejected, which was to not send money back to the state. When will we at the public get a new budget with the understanding that many of the things that were proposed will no longer be able to take place given the situation that we're in with Dr. Bender and the fact that we're paying 2 superintendents and we will also have legal fees. And that was not, as Mr. Demikoff mentioned, budgeted and approved when it was presented to the public. So when will we get a revised version of the budget with the new landscape in mind?
I am,
And just to add, our insurance does cover, a lot of these litigations as well. But
so the budget has it. They've been and as our state monitor, which we are choosing not to listen. And when I mean we, I mean the Board of Education. The Board of Education right now is making a very intentional decision not to listen to our state monitor. You're presenting a budget with the full understanding that we will not be able to do those things on behalf of our children because we will have legal fees to pay, and we paid back a loan which we didn't have to pay. So as a public and as a parent of 2 children in the district, when will I know what we will actually be able to afford and what will be cut from the budget so that I know how my children will be harmed as a result of your decision?
just to answer, nothing will be cut from the initiatives set forth in the budget that have been passed.
Gibbons, I will hold you to that. This is on record. You're saying nothing will be cut. I will hold you to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Launakana, are there any other virtual public comments?
If there aren't any further comments on agenda items, we'd like to move to resolutions, please. We could begin with faculty and programs. Trustee
Sure,
Rodriguez.
thank you.
Thank you.
I so move FP1 through FP9.
I'll second.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions or comments regarding FP1 through FP9? Seeing none, roll call. Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Thiemann, Mr. Cathcart, and President Gibbons.
Yes. Thank you. Trustee Cathcart, would like to move on to buildings and grounds.
Who is the second?
Second
please?
from trustee Thiemann.
Are there any questions on BG1 through BG3?
I have a question on BG1. So the classrooms will, the annual facility approvals for the dual use. So the classrooms will be used by 2, even 3 groups at the same time.
Are you
And
talking
there's
about
going to be multiple teachers teaching in that classroom, in those classrooms?
Yes, if there are 2 teachers teaching in one space, it's considered dual use.
Why is there no space for the teachers to have their own area?
You know what, to be honest with you, I'll have to look into that, but it's very typical for spaces to have dual use.
So 2 teachers and 2 groups of kids will be learning in the same classroom at the same time.
Correct.
Okay. Is it because we don't have any space? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Could trustee Fernandez, finance, please?
Yes. I'd like to move FI1 through FI30. I so move.
Second from Mr. Trustee Cathcart.
We didn't vote on BG 1 through 3.
We're gonna vote on BG 1 through 3.
I don't think we, we didn't have a vote on that.
We haven't voted on it.
No, we
Yes.
haven't voted on that. Okay, Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Thiemann, Mr. Fernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Phytros.
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes. Finance, it was moved by trustee Fernandez and seconded by trustee Cathcart.
Are there any questions on FI1 through FI30? Seeing that there are none. Mr. Fernandez,
I so move. Yes.
Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Phytros.
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes, but I'll be an abstention on FI4.
Mr. Thiemann, Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes. Or should we? The consent agenda?
Are there any questions on CR1 to CR4? Seeing there are none, Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Thiemann, Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Personnel, trustee Thiemann. Second,
Excuse me one second. Okay. You tell me again who was the personnel, who was the first list?
Bob Thiemann moved, correct? And who seconded? Mr. Caffrey. Good, got it, thank you.
thank
Are
you.
there any questions on P1 to P21?
25,
25, I'm sorry.
P25.
Seeing there are none. Mr. Thiemann, Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes.
Yes, but I'll abstain from P21.
I didn't hear what you said.
Did you say abstention of P21? Yep, yes. Abstention.
Mrs. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Verselli,
Yes.
and President Gibbons.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. That concludes our resolutions. We have off agenda items. We're moving on to citizen comments, off agenda items. And the same rules apply, as before, 3 minutes. And if you need an additional time, please let me know, and I'll yield you when everybody else has spoken in another 2 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Jessica Johnson, 80 Gordon Street, Ridgefield Park. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for giving me the time to speak. My last attempt to speak to you was at the last board meeting. It was the very first board meeting I'd ever attended. And if you don't remember me from last meeting, I had said that I'd never attended because I have no children in the district. I came back today to this board meeting because the last board meeting left me with a very sour taste in my mouth. I saw a side of this town that I had never been exposed to. And what really took me more than anything was the amount of disrespect that I saw coming from the board to the members of the public that you are elected to represent. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I watched as parents and teachers and students stood up to say their piece, and you didn't pay attention, you didn't listen, and you told them to sit down. And you told them to sit down with 3 minutes, and I understand that. And I completely respect your need for rules and maintaining order and getting through your day. I get how to run a meeting. But I left here with a question about what exactly those rules were and how they were to be enforced. And so I found a copy of your rules. In fact, it is 0167, public participation in board meetings. And I would like it on the record that number 2, under the public participation shall be governed by the following rules, states, in the event it appears that the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 3 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 5 minutes duration, and that no participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others have been heard, and it goes on from there. I understand you've just made this announcement twice, that it is 3 minutes. I would like it put into the public record that is in direct opposition to what is in your own policies.
I'll let you finish, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, just to review, if your 3 minutes is up, we did take a look at the policy in our policy committee meeting. We will yield another 2 minutes when everybody else has spoken. So that is 5 minutes.
That is, I understand what you're saying, and I do appreciate you giving extra time. Ladies and gentlemen, please. I do appreciate you giving extra time, but your policy does say 5 minutes, and the person may stand up a second time to speak after that 5 minutes, once everyone else has spoken. The only reason I bring this to your attention is because I feel like a lot of people had a lot to say, and from the lack of attention and the amount of disrespect that I saw coming from the board in just simple attentiveness, basic common decency. You are publicly elected officials. And yes, that holds you to a higher standard. And so with all due respect, I expect you to stand up or step down.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noel Cody, members of the board.
And your address,
Please
Mr.
state your address, Mr.
Superintendent.
Cody.
Your address, please.
418 Teaneck Road. Are you gonna bomb me? In the interest of keeping this as short as possible, I did write it down. Usually I fly from the cuff. But tonight I'm here to express some extreme disappointment, especially in regards to what happened last meeting. Dr. Bender did a great job here in unprecedented conditions. Right? She made improvements with the help of Mr. Tevis and other staff. But what happened? You, the members of the board, you made a big mistake. You made a big costly mistake because the dollars are ticking. All right, you suspended her and you put in a temporary superintendent. Seems like a nice guy, Dr. Haynes. Good for him. But it isn't good for the taxpayers and it isn't good for the district and the children. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know where your brains were, but I do know one thing. You had to be sitting on them. And you probably still are because you're not doing the right thing. I want to thank you for listening to me and have a good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ronald Hidalgo, 335 Teaneck Road. I have a few questions that I would like to have an honest answer from the board members or from the persons that I'm addressing. There is a petition on change.org. Take our village back and stop the state control of Ridgefield Park schools. Is there any board member participating in that petition? Can you say
As
no,
far as
yes?
I know, I wouldn't even know. I believe not.
Is not even one, not a single one.
If you're asking if somebody's participating in
Yes,
a
is
petition,
anyone a part of that petition?
you have the list. I couldn't tell you.
No, I just want a yes or no answer.
I don't have an answer to that.
You know, so
I can't answer to
you're
everyone. I'm not. But
okay. You are not okay. So I guess there is somebody from the board part of that petition. Okay, that's checked. Another question. Does this board intend to run the school? Yes or no answer?
the board does not run the school.
No, I'm
Superintendent
asking
runs
if there is an intention of the board to run the schools. Yes or no answer. It's a simple answer.
I answered already, Mr. Hidalgo.
No? Okay. Remember, you're on the oath when you're a board member and you're on the board. Let me ask another question. Is Mr. Haynes qualified to run the schools, and what are his qualifications?
Dr. Haynes is qualified and has a doctorate from Columbia University and is extremely qualified for the position.
So he is qualified. Does he have a contract approved by the district? And how long is this contract?
We read the resolution. Mrs. Wright read the resolution.
The
about,
resolution doesn't say the time. The resolution is open, and according
common
to that
practice.
resolution, is forever.
I apologize. Common practice is for an acting superintendent, it's 3 months at a time, and they're approved upon the.
Okay,
board
so you
after
need,
that.
you need to correct that resolution.
I don't know
So
what you're referring
that
to.
resolution is null then. Because it doesn't state any time.
To be clear,
Does,
Mr. Hidalgo, just on behalf of the board, that resolution was specifically requested to be written in the manner in which it was written by the Executive County Superintendent of the Department of Education.
so in other words, you need to vote on it again.
The Executive County Superintendent requested that there be no specific end date in the resolution.
And
But
Mr.
when-
Hidalgo, if you'd like to yield another 2 minutes at another time, you can.
I have a few questions, and I'm a citizen, I'm a taxpayer,
So when.
and I
when,
want some resolved.
So with all due respect, your three
The
minutes
policy
has gone
says
up.
five, the policy
So
says 5
after,
minutes.
That, we could give you another 2 minutes when everybody else
The
has
policy
spoken.
says 5 minutes, and then after everybody talks,
Yes,
you
we're
can come
giving you
back.
another 2 minutes after everyone has spoken.
They can give me 2 minutes now, and then
It's up
after
to our
that, I'll come back.
discretion.
It's the, it's the,
up to
it's
our
the school
discretion.
policy,
We
and
read
you know
this.
that. Remember, I was a board member here, and I know it's 5 minutes.
We're giving you
5
2 more minutes, Mr. Hidalgo.
The board states 5 minutes. And also I want to ask another question. It's Dr. Haynes.
You're not going to abide by the 3 minute.
Is he
policy.
working on the, is he?
Would you like to have
transitioning?
2 more minutes after this? Okay, when everybody else has spoken, you could come back up for another extra 2 minutes. And I
Okay.
believe the timer's off, so we're giving
I have
another
a
2
lot of
minutes on top of
questions.
the 3. We have many people to speak. After the 3 minutes, we're giving you an extra 2.
It's
when
5
everybody else has
minutes and then 3 more, then after that, I can come back. I'll
I
come
can-
back.
You can, for 2 more minutes.
I'll come
Thank you.
back. I'll come back.
Thank you, Mr.
I have
Hidalgo.
more questions, but I want answers to all of them.
Good evening.
Good evening. First, I'd like 5 minutes. I'm going to be 4 minutes. I'm going to be
Mrs.
4 whole
Schmidt,
minutes, and I'm going to borrow 1 minute from the girl behind me.
We're not, I'm unfortunately yielding minutes. You could have 3 and you'd come back for 2.
I'm just telling you, I'm going to get interrupted. I'm only 4 minutes.
We want to do the same thing for everyone as in our policy.
I want everybody to have 4 minutes because they're just going to keep coming back. It's going to take
We
longer.
have to have some sort of order. It's
I
in the
agree with
Rogers
you.
rules.
I agree with you
You can have
100%. So
3
just give
minutes.
everybody 5. Give everybody 5 because it's going to take that long. You're going to have them coming back. So just give them 5.
So you're welcome to come back after
It's
3
5
minutes for
versus
2.
3. It's not a big freaking
So
deal.
3
Okay, I'm taking
plus the 2
hers, so it
minutes.
doesn't matter. Okay, we're moving on.
We're not yielding minutes, unfortunately.
All right, we're moving on. I'm going to
So
take
3
hers.
minutes and
Okay,
then 2 minutes, we could bring
Okay.
you on after that.
I'll
And that's
take
the
hers.
rule
It's
for
okay.
everyone.
all right.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's silly, but we do a lot of silly things here.
No
So.
policy reviewed this.
Okay,
Thank you.
starting now, right?
Can you state your name, please?
Yes, Jennifer Schmidt, 138 Fifth Street. I want to know when the masks will become optional in school. Is it when the CDC says it's okay? Well, they say it's okay if you're vaccinated, yet vaccinated teachers are still wearing them. I thought the vaccine was the answer, so why are the vaccinated teachers still masked? I'd like to read a key takeaway directly from the current CDC guidelines. Localities should monitor community transmission, vaccination coverage, screening, testing, and occurrence of outbreaks to guide decisions on the level of layered prevention strategies. Since the CDC says we should take a look at the community transmission and the vaccination rates, let's do that. As of last week, Ridgefield Park has a total of 8 COVID cases. That's 0.06% of our population. 4 COVID patients in the entire county are currently in ICU. That's 4% out of 100 ICU beds that are filled in the county. 64% of Ridgefield Park population is fully or partially vaccinated. 76% of that are 18 and over. And as for where outbreaks occur in school, transmission is considered crucially low or near 0. As you already know, I'm interested in truth, not opinions fueled by emotions or greed. The truth is our local numbers are extremely low. There are countless studies. I simply can't get into them in 3 minutes, but please visit unmasknjschools.com. Some extremely dedicated parents have put this website together and they've done all the legwork for you. Read the studies and the articles. I don't know how any of you will be able to justify your actions of keeping our kids masked any longer with so many credible studies made public. I'll just make mention to one study that found it would take over 200 masked up kids for an entire week to prevent one new COVID case in schools. That is if all the kids wore them 100% correctly and 100% of the time in school. That hardly sounds like an effective measure, certainly not one where the benefit outweighs the risks. So if RP is simply following guidelines, because we know for sure you're not following science, it seems you need to edit your September reopening plan, as we don't have a COVID health crisis here. We have a mental and physical health crisis and a disregard for human rights, specifically children's rights. Let me be clear, this is child abuse. Child abuse includes failure to act on the part of a parent or a caretaker, which results in death, physical or emotional harm. Who would know better if masking is causing emotional harm to a child than the parent? I know it's harming mine. So are they staying masked because we want our extra funding? I've heard the funding excuse over and over, so let me be clear. If I hear one more time that it is okay to mask children and provide no proof that the benefit outweighs the harm, and we can abuse children so long as we get paid for it, I'll pull my daughter out immediately, and I won't stop until enough parents do the same. That will hurt your funding. I can assure you, it is getting easier and easier to pull them out. Find a pod, find a private school that doesn't subscribe to your insanity.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. We will yield
Okay,
2
Sophie's
more
gonna
minutes
talk
to
now.
you. I appreciate it. Thank
This
you.
is
We
my
are happy
niece.
to listen. Good evening.
Sophia Sanabria, 118 Preston Street.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm here today because I do not like wearing the mask because it is hard to breathe and they are itchy. They are hard to talk in them that my teacher can't hear me. They do nothing. We don't need them because they are bad for our mental health. And I don't know why anywhere else. And how come you don't have to wear a mask when I do? I used to like going to school, but now I don't. Please change the rules so I don't have to wear a mask anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I take the rest of her time?
No, we're not yielding time. I could give you 2 minutes when you come back. We're just using the same rules for everyone. The 2 minutes additionally, and you did speak over 3 minutes, is 5 minutes equally. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Donna Duran.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, I'm sorry.
Donna Duran, 16 Sabina Street, Little Ferry.
Good evening, Mrs.
How
Turner.
are you?
How are you?
I have a question for the monitor. I don't know if I have to address the president first and then ask permission to ask the monitor. How does that work?
You could ask a general question and the monitor could choose it or not.
Does
if
the
you'd like to
monitor make
answer.
monthly reports or weekly reports or daily reports to Trenton?
Yes, I do.
Are they monthly, weekly, or daily?
Many times, there are multiple times during the week, depending on the issues. But I'm in constant communication with the person that I report to.
Are they operable?
Verbal? No,
Or are they operable?
they're verbal.
You make verbal in such a,
I discuss
How can I word it?
issues on the
Such a-
phone with Trenton.
excuse me? I would just feel in such the situation that we're dealing with, everything is verbal. It should be written. Who told you to do it in verbal? I'd like to see that guidelines where a report that you're giving concerning this district and Little Ferry and all the issues and the problems that are going on, especially now with a lawsuit, that you give verbal reports.
They're verbal.
Where is that written that you give verbal reports?
They're verbal, and there are written reports that are sent to the individual in Trenton that I report to. Are they operable? You can send an open request in if you'd like.
So answer my question. You just said to me before that the report's verbal. Are the reports verbal? I would assume now what you do is you probably tell them and then they type it up and it goes to somebody else. Is that how it works?
No, and I don't know how it works down at the other end. I discuss the issues of this district verbally with the person that I report to on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis.
Can I have the name of the person that you report to, please?
Mr. Glenn Forney.
Oh, I know, Mr. Connie. Okay, my other question is, do you retain a salary for doing this? What is your salary?
I have a contract.
That's a public.
I have a contract that calls for an hourly rate.
Who's in charge? Which board member here is in charge of finance? Anybody? Mr. Finance Chairperson. His rate is hourly?
He gains an annual salary of 140,000.
I don't have an annual salary of 140,000. I have a rate of $96 per hour, depending on the number of hours that I spend on district business. And I am maxed at 32 hours per week in the latest contract that the board president has.
Do I have to come back? I'll come back.
We could yield another 2 minutes,
Sure.
as we are for everyone. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Haynes, John Rafferty, Ridgefield Park, 54 Euclid Avenue.
Good evening.
A perfect example of the Board of Education's ignorance towards the people of Ridgefield Park. The major concern at meetings seems to be how much time we have to talk rather than what it is we're trying to talk about. We receive no replies. We are lied to, and we are not given the thanks. I have spent the last week on my computer looking at the Ridgefield Park at Board of Education for the last 7 years. I total over $9 million in legal fees, starting with the St. Francis, going on and on. Many board members say, well, we were not there. But you are here for willing to pay close to $500,000 for our superintendent of school to sit at home, plus legal fees. That is not your money. That is the money of the people. Who has paid the price for the last 7 years? Our students. I have read 10 to 12 reports from the state of New Jersey, all of which state in English, we are about average, and math, we are 15 to 20 points below state average. That is because our Board of Education spends so much time in one mess after another, we fail to focus on raising the bar, which was Dr. Bender's theme. Dr. Haynes, congratulations on your appointment. Can you substantiate those numbers for us, where our children are on a state level?
The last New Jersey assessment was done in 2018-19. That's the New Jersey Learning Standards.
We can't hear you, sir. Can you speak up, please?
The last state assessment that was done, New Jersey Student Learning Assessment Standards, was done in 2018-19. And your numbers are valid, yes.
There are no more questions. There's nothing else to talk about. That's why we have a Board of Education. You and us are on the same side. We can't even discuss about how much time we should have to talk. I know my time is up, right?
You could come back.
Screw the students, right?
You could come back.
Screw our kids.
With all due respect, Mr. Aftery.
That's not my input, that is a fact. I just had it backed up by the superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Mr. Aftery.
I don't hear you saying anything else. Those are hard numbers, my friend. Our children are failing. Why our Board of Education jumps in one pot after another. And the people of this town have had it.
Thank you, Mr. Aftery.
Gillian
And
Mark,
just to add,
305
those
Fifth
numbers
Street.
are incorrect. We did not have $9 million in legal fees. Thank you, Ms. Mark.
All right,
Good evening.
all right, you got
Mrs.
my
Mark.
address, Gillian Mark, 305 Fifth Street. So I went onto this really great website, New Jersey School Boards of Association. Oh, and I have copies if anyone wants them. I'm really good with making copies. I'm just going to read this little blurb. Generally prohibit, and this is for board members, generally prohibit or volunteer activities in which the board member would be subject to the supervision, management, and direction of other board personnel, supervisors, and administrators, would be in regular contact with students, parents, and staff, and would maintain an active day-to-day presence or be enmeshed in the school. These would include, but would not be limited to, volunteer coaches, volunteer club advisors, volunteer cafeteria and playground aides, and other similar activities. If the board member's volunteer activity looks like something that would generally be done by a school district employee, it is probably not permitted. But you can do Read Across America Day. So you might want to think about doing that because we don't want to break the rules here at all. Does anyone want a copy of this? Or you can go to New Jersey School Boards Association. It was written by a lawyer. Thank you.
Mrs. Wright, could you possibly address that for a volunteer policy?
I think you're very foolish playing this little 3-minute game.
I'm sorry, our attorney's speaking. Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, just to respond to that, the board frequently obtains legal advice on the potential conflicts and the parameters of its abilities to participate in a number of activities and take on a number of tasks, including volunteer activities in and around the school district. So the board has obtained legal advice from the board attorney on its volunteer activities individually. School Boards Association puts out general guidance for all school boards and specifically advises school boards that they should speak with their own specific board attorney to get specific advice for their boards.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright.
You're welcome.
Good evening.
Well, as I said, I think you're being very foolish playing this little 3-minute game and breaking your own policy. What is the current situation with the money with Little Ferry? Are they all paid up and current? It's just, you know, you're using my time.
That's a question. Maybe you could email the business
What is the
administrator.
current situation with the money with the Little Ferry? Are they currently all paid up?
You could possibly email the business administrator and she could clarify that with you.
Yes, I'm brand new. I just started 2 weeks ago. Can you send me an email, please?
Don't they currently owe us a
or-
$1,042,000?
I'm sorry?
Don't they currently owe us $1,042,000?
You know what? I can't speak to that. As I said, I just started. I'm brand new. I can find that information out for you, but I can't answer that at this moment.
Mr. Demikoff, I don't know
Has
if you
Little
want to
Ferry
answer
signed
that.
all the contracts that the court ordered them to sign for 2019, 20, 2021, and have they signed the current contract?
No, they haven't.
Excuse me?
No, they haven't.
He said no, they haven't.
Okay. What was Tom Krausick doing in the high school on Monday?
I have no idea what you're referring to, ma'am.
You don't know who's in your building and when, and non-employees?
How am I-
Okay. Okay. I'd like to make a statement for the record and the public. The person that everyone is mentioning is the person Dr. Bender is involved with. First, I'd like to mention that they are two single people, not akin to the many extramarital affairs that have gone on in this district. Secondly, I'd like to say that he's a director in this district and not a subordinate to Dr. Bender. He doesn't report to her. It was also set up that way under a previous board to protect him, actually, from most of your benefactors, because he is a whistleblower. He gave testimony to OFAC investigators, the state auditors, and the FBI. So you all might want to keep that in your mind while you continue your quest. Most of you sitting there were recruited by district employees, and your elections were bought and paid for by them. You moved to send Dr. Bender on administrative leave for no reason was a fatal move on your part, because now it's all to come out. 695 people signed a petition and 350 people attended the last meeting in opposition of what you have done. Since you have ignored the people that elected you to represent them, we intend to take this further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the benefit of the board, I'd like to make sure that the board understands that every employee of the district is a subordinate of the superintendent.
Can you repeat that, Carrie? I apologize.
Sure, just for the benefit of the board, I'd like to make sure the board understands that every employee of the district is a subordinate of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright. Good evening.
Diane Mack, 575 Teaneck Road. My question was very similar to Susan DeSantis. What is the outstanding balance that Little Ferry owes us? Did they sign the contract? Because there was a ruling by the Department of Education Commissioner saying that they have to. I heard your advice that we should email to get that answer, and I will. I just would like to make the statement that last month when we stood up, I personally stood up and asked what the board was considering to be the financial implication of the decision that you were making. Obviously, when I had my statement period, there was not a direct answer. But before the board voted, one of the board members said that you all considered every concern that we had before you voted the way that you did. Subsequent to the vote, I emailed Mr. Demikoff and asked what the amount was in the budget that you were reserving for having an interim superintendent while we are paying Dr. Bender to be home. This gentleman who is well educated and I believe can execute those duties will be hard pressed to execute two positions at the same time. And also the disruption to the start of the school year with a brand new superintendent, a brand new business administrator, who are having difficulty asking questions just because they started a month ago at the same time. So how do we find out the answers to these questions? Because in this setting, when we ask the question, the answer is we've considered everything. The email afterwards and Mr. Demikov's statements today are that we don't have anything reserved. And Mr. Gibbons, you made the statement that we have insurance for the legal fees. We don't have insurance should we lose the suit. And there's fee shifting in New Jersey that any of Dr. Bender's legal fees, should you lose, move to us. And it is not us sitting behind the table, it is us, the taxpayer, and us, the students. So you made a comment. You made a comment earlier that you're not going to cut any programs for our schools.
Correct.
Well, you're already at the cap for what the tax increase is, 2% for our district. So that means you have to go back for a special dispensation to get more than 2% from all of the people in this community. No, so what's the answer?
The answer is every initiative that was passed and agreed upon will happen.
So then some of the basics, I guess, have to come out because there is a finite
I
amount
didn't
of
say
money in
that.
there's a finite amount of money in the budget. And I would like to know when we are getting the money from Little Ferry because the receivables should be in our budget, but at least we could get the interest on it since we gave back $500,000 of an interest-free loan.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Jay Sean Sadler, 139 Overpeck Avenue, Ridgefield Park. Last meeting, I and countless others rose to express our deep concern and unequivocal will that Dr. Bender not be removed as our district superintendent. Many appeals were made by many members of this community, and community sentiment publicly expressed was overwhelmingly and resoundingly in favor of keeping Dr. Bender. Despite all of this, members of the board decided to subvert the clearly expressed will of the people and remove her from this position. I won't go through all of the litany of reasons why this was a terrible decision, but it clearly demonstrated the intransigence, the ineptitude, and the paternalistic nature with which these board members are executing their duties. The vote on Dr. Bender wasn't the only recent example of board members subverting the public will. There was also the vote to send early payment for a no-interest loan from which played out in a similar fashion and to the similar detriment of our school district. I don't purport to have all of the understanding of these issues, nor all of the answers as to how they should be resolved. I'm just a deeply concerned father and citizen of this village who wishes to ensure that my children in particular and the collective village as a whole has the very best school district we can possibly provide for them. It's clear to me that those board members who subvert the undeniably stated will of the people are incapable of helping us achieve this goal, precisely because they do not represent us. I have no confidence in them whatsoever. As such, in closing, I'd like to state my wish that all my fellow parents and citizens of Ridgefield Park do what my own children who follow these proceedings very closely encourage me to do. Take action. Hold these board members fully accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Do I need to state my name and address again?
I think you did once before. We have it on record. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to bring one other question, which was unrelated, which is why I stepped down when I did. I understand that we stagger our terms for our Board of Ed so that it's never a brand new board. And I get that some of you have been here longer than others, and some of you have seen more, and some of you are new to the board and may not necessarily have a good understanding of exactly what all is going on. But I have we'll call it a just generalized question for this board to consider. A lot of people ask questions about finance and about legal and a lot of questions. You are the board. Someone on this board should have answers for the public. It shouldn't be email on another day. We're here as members of the public because we want your answers. And we want to know that you know what you're doing. We want, not that we don't want to make an assumption that you know what's good for our children. We want you to be able to tell us.
That's why we have a business administrator, and we can't answer financial.
Well, that's fine. And I
that
totally
was
respect.
one question, and we're trying to answer the public, and we appreciate everyone's comments.
I completely respect that the business administrator just got thrown under the bus because she's new and doesn't really actually know the answers to the question off the top of her head. I would like to know, is it that we are absolutely excellent at hiring completely inept business administrators, or is there something going on in this district which causes us to have 5 business administrators in 3 years? What is going on? What is happening in this town? Why do we have 5 superintendents in 7 years? This is an unheard of number. You cannot seriously be that bad at hiring someone to have 5 different superintendents in 7 years. What's his life expectancy? Are we expecting a new superintendent in 2 months because all of a sudden you've decided the person you chose can't do their job? I would like to know. This is an absolutely ludicrous turnover rate.
at an absolutely unacceptable expense to the community. And I am not saying, Dr. Haynes, that you are not qualified to do your job. I don't even know your name. I'm very sorry. I'm not saying you're not qualified, Mrs. Grabstein. I'm not saying you're not qualified to do your job. I'm saying that there is a reason that you are either letting these people go or there is a reason that they are leaving of their own volition, but that reason lies with you.
How are you? Good evening.
Olga Rios, 388 Main Street. And I would just like, as Jessica said, you know, I have been part of this district. My oldest is 8. And, you know, meeting after meeting after meeting, it seems to always be the same, you know, issue. Oh, email later. Oh, we can't give you that information. Oh, that is not open to the public. I'm sorry, who do you work for? You know, who pays your salary? Who do you work for? I'm definitely like over, you know, the whole like, oh, that's not open to discussion. It's getting, you know, pretty ridiculous. And I think the only person that has ever answered any of my emails or any of my questions has been Dr. Bender. None of you, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. And I'm here and I, you know, on Zoom, trying to figure out what it is that your job is. I mean, it's mind-boggling, really. And as Jen was talking about the mask mandate, are the kids going to go full-time starting in September? Are we expecting our children to wear a mask from 8:30 to, you know, 3 o'clock? They're not getting vaccinated, which, you know, should not be the problem. It's getting ridiculous. Yeah, maybe the CDC said this or that, whatever. I mean, Jen has all the information, which she has emailed multiple times. And, you know, I'm sure you just delete emails since you never replied to them.
No, we've answered Mrs. Schmidt's emails, by the way.
But, you know, it's not just the physical. Now we are putting our children in charge of protecting us. We as adults, as parents, are supposed to protect our children. We are supposed to keep them safe. And now we are putting on them the responsibility of keeping us adults safe. Oh, because, you know, sure, we're more prone to get the corona. That's true. Absolutely. But that is not their fault. They should not be made to wear a mask for, you know, 6 hours just to protect us. It's, you know, it's getting to the point that it's ridiculous. You know, and I can say whatever I want because I don't owe my job to anyone. I haven't gotten, you know, I don't owe my life to anyone. I didn't get, you know, your job by being friendly with people. And you're gonna see a lot of me in this district.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. You should be happy to see me.
Before you start, give me a minute, please.
Sure.
There's a lot of studies, if you research it, I'm about masks. And recent studies have shown that masks create anxiety, depression, and they lose socialization skills wearing a mask. The CDC is all over the damn place. Masking may not be the answer because children do not transmit the disease. So we better know what we're doing. You heard me. Don't listen to me. Certain ages don't transmit the disease. Okay, you read.
There's studies. Look them up. Show me the studies. I'm not talking.
What were you going to say?
I would like someone to come up here with the other studies showing otherwise.
There is no study.
Show us the studies. Show us the numbers. Show me. Show me.
Masking may not be the answer. As a matter of fact, it can be doing more harm than good.
Thank you. I'm just going to finish up where I left off, if I may.
Yes, of course. Mr. Schmidt.
My daughter is actually exempt from wearing a mask. Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for doing the right thing and the legal thing. She thankfully has an IEP that permits her to be exempt. Just this week, after over 4 years of searching for an answer, my family learned that my daughter has a new medical diagnosis. She has a syndrome. It can have various medical implications. I found that out this week. I can only assume God made sure this is the time for us to get our answer because it's a critical time. I may or may not vaccinate my daughter against this virus in my own time after consulting with those professionals that I trust. My family's medical decisions belong in the hands of medical professionals and I. They don't belong in the hands of any board, any superintendent, and certainly not the New Jersey Education Association. I take a look around this room and I see an awful lot of unmasked faces. Do we know who's vaccinated and who's not? No, we don't though. We don't know. We don't have to tell you. We don't know. Yet we seem pretty comfortable being in here for hours together, unmasked and unafraid. How very hypocritical we are as adults to sit here this way and then continue the charade with our kids. Vaccinations only lessen symptoms and reduce hospitalizations. So what good is a vaccine to a child who has a minuscule chance of being hospitalized or spreading the virus? I want to be clear. There are vulnerable people in every age group, and those vulnerable people do need to be kept safe. But masking or vaccinating healthy children has little to no impact on those vulnerable groups. Again, please just read the studies. If you have a study, show me. My email address is jls35@njit.edu. I always welcome a debate. I always welcome a difference of opinion on the subject. So if you have something else to say, bring it, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt.
I'm not done. I'm vaccinated, by the way. I did it to protect my child and to keep her in school because I care. God forbid she ever tested positive. Her education is my concern. The quality of our children's education is suffering under these rules. These consequences will be irreversible, and I want to know who will be liable because it was the CDC, it won't be the governor, it won't be the Department of Health. Guess who that leaves? I've brought you the facts, I've brought you the numbers, I've pointed out the hypocrisy of these recommendations, and I'm asking you to do something so simple. It's disturbing I should even have to ask. I'm asking you to let individuals choose. It's my body, my choice, right? Are you all medical professionals? Do you know the full medical history of every student? My daughter's proof that sometimes even parents don't know everything there is to know until it's discovered. If I have to go along with the school's rules and mask my daughter or vaccinate her or both, and she suffers any health issues of any kind, how will you all feel then? Release yourselves of the burden, give parents back their freedom to choose. And I want to know why you won't. And I want to know if you'll share those results of the survey.
With all due respect, we have discussed in policy at length, and we have as a board discussed masking, and we appreciate your comments.
There's a September reopening plan currently that says we're going to mask the kids in September. That's current. And now I've just learned that there will be a survey. What will the results be shared? Will they impact the decision come September? And when will the survey be conducted?
Absolutely.
August, I believe.
Parents will know what's going on.
If 80% want the masks off the kids, are you gonna follow their wishes? Because there's no legal mandate currently about masking kids.
I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments.
And I got no answer.
Mr. Gibbons, I'd just like to read one short statement. And to reiterate what Nurse Aguilar said, that we will have a survey, that we will, with the board, read the results of the survey. And I'm reading from the road forward, which was put out by the New Jersey Department of Health in anticipation of reopening our schools in September. And this is what we are going by now. Yes, we do have guidelines up on our website, but the guidelines stated here said schools should anticipate potential updates to this guidance that's printed in this prior to the start of the new school year as additional federal recommendations from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, become available. So we are also waiting to see what those recommendations from the CDC will be, along with our community survey. Thank you, Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Carrie Sanabria. I'm Jenny Schmidt's sister. I'm also the mother of Sophia, who spoke today, and I have another child at home, as well as my two nieces who are in the school district. So between me, there's 4 kids in the district, and I myself attended this school district my whole life. I'm not here to attack the board. I'm here because first of all, I'm supporting my sister and my daughter who were able to speak, and they've been speaking. And I hope everyone's listening, even though we don't really know what's going on. Honestly, my question is, like my sister said, we're all sitting here comfortably with no masks on. No one knows who's vaccinated, who's not. It's none of your business, quite honestly, who's vaccinated or not. It's against HIPAA rights, okay? I myself work in the business. I have been working since COVID. I'm an essential worker. I worked every day through this pandemic. I've not worn a mask once. Did I get COVID? No. Not saying it doesn't happen. Everyone who's lost lives, I'm very sorry, okay? But what about my children? That's the question. I have a child here who came to a Board of Ed meeting, which, by the way, she said to me it's boring. I don't blame her, okay? She's 8 years old and she's here, okay? I have an 11-year-old daughter who's at home on Nintendo, who's worried because she has no friends because of COVID. Is that okay? That's the question. It's okay that she plays sports. She plays basketball 5 days a week with a team from this town, goes to the town pool, has a great day, enjoys all her friends, the same friends who come here, and then they put a shield on their face. It's a joke. You get that? These kids see each other regardless whether the school says yes or no. We all see each other. I have barbecues every day. I have people at my house from this town. I've seen half of you at my house. And then you want to sit here and put a mask on. Really? That's all I'm going to say. Honestly, at the end of the day, nobody's saying that you can't wear one. That's the point. We're not saying that you're silly for wearing one and protecting yourself. What we're saying is give us the choice. I want to see my kids smile. I want to see my nieces smile. My niece, like my sister said, has special needs. I am very upset. I raised this child. She lived in my house. She is on the spectrum. She is behind. She's been left back twice. She's 4 years old and she's in this school district. It's disgusting. Again, not blaming the board all over. You know, it's not everybody's fault, but what are we doing? Every time we come here, what's the plan? What's it gonna be? I'm really happy there's a survey, but to be honest, I'm not so confident we're gonna get the real results. Are we gonna hear the real results that come back from that survey? I'm also here because I don't like conflict. I don't like being here. This is my second board meeting ever. And I'm 36 years old and I've been in this district, like I said, graduated with George, by the way. We're friends. We've done a lot of things out of work. We should do Beer Olympics again, by the way, soon. But the point is that I'm not really sure we're even gonna get the true story. I don't like that I don't have confidence in that. I don't like that I live here and don't trust anything that I hear.
Ma'am, we
I
can give
understand.
you,
Thank you. I just wanted to make my point clear.
thank you very much, Mrs. Snabrio. Good evening.
At DeSantis 15 Homestead Place. First of all, welcome, Mrs. Grabstein. I hope you enjoy your new gut job. I'm sure you'll do a fine one. And good luck.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Haynes, I really don't know you. I'm sure you're very competent in what you do. You work with Mrs. Bender, so this is not directed at you. But Dr. Bender's, the board has made so many reckless decisions in the last few months that I could have 5 times 5 minutes and I wouldn't be done. Now, to clear a couple of things up, Mr. Fernandez, you said that the $500,000 you're going to send back to the state would be addressed in committee, and you booked a committee meeting after June 30th. Now, it stands to reason, if you knew how the district worked, those funds would have been dispersed before June 30th, before the BA left. Otherwise, the auditors got to report them on the audit report as funds that are not expended.
Correct.
So you must know it very well
It
that
was
the money would
budgeted
be
for.
gone. I'm not done talking.
It was budgeted for.
Excuse me?
The repayment was budgeted for. So you, instead of giving me an auditing lesson, would know that it had to be paid.
I'm not done with it, but there was no intention to really get the $500,000 back. So let's not say nonsense here. Number 2, when's Dr. Bender coming back? You seem to have, whenever there's a tough questions, Mr. Gibbons, you seem not to have an answer. You stutter and you flap your lips, you don't say anything.
Now we're getting personal, Mr. DeSantis. I don't have an answer for you. We have an acting superintendent. His name is Dr. Barry Haynes.
It doesn't surprise me you don't have an answer.
Thank you.
Well, you should know as an acting
You have
president,
I'm not done.
55 seconds left.
I'm still gonna go.
You can
So-
yield another 2 minutes then.
But first of all, it's 5 minutes plus, and that's what I'm gonna do.
It's not plus. I read the policy, sir.
Then you should learn how to read. So anyway, well, we're back to what we're talking about here is now you've made a $500,000 bad decision because nobody gives back state aid, because that's what it was, an advance on state aid. Congratulate yourselves on being the first district probably in New Jersey to do that. You had an active lawsuit with your prior superintendent who was laid off or sent home. Are you paying attention?
Who was the president when we went into financial mishap?
I was, and when we discovered it, we went right on it. And Mr. Demikoff can say this, said that. What are you doing about your
So
problems?
you were the president when this all happened. Is that
When
correct?
what all happened?
I couldn't hear you.
What all happened?
When we had the financial mismanagement.
Yes, I was the president, and if you read
Thank
the
you.
OFAC report,
And
no, don't say thank you.
You
Let
have
me
2
finish.
more minutes.
You are
and we can
using.
give to you.
You are
Thank you,
using
Mr.
my time.
DeSantis.
I'm talking
We can
over the
give you
top
2
of
more
you.
minutes, Mr. DeSantis.
I
when
can
this is
talk
complete.
really loud. Stop interrupting me.
You have 2 more minutes after the group
No,
is
I have you
completed,
interrupted
like
half my
everyone
time.
else, like we've did
I'm
to the
going
whole
to keep
public.
going, so you can either stop or you let me finish. I'm going to finish. So anyway, the OFAC report stated that the superintendent and then his assistant superintendent and business administrator were the ones responsible for that. So don't give me that. We're talking about what the board is doing now. And what the board doing now is setting the superintendent home under false pretenses, personal reasons, and why. You're going to have your meeting tomorrow night with goal settings. Now, I'm sure Dr. Haynes was involved, but basically you're going to use that meeting to set goals next year on the things that Angela Bender did. You continue to treat the public rudely. You don't understand how this board works. I'm not
Me
done yet.
rudely first. You have another minute, Mr. DeSantis, which is what 5 minutes everyone has. We've done the same thing for
If you
every
stop
member of the
interrupting
public.
me, I'll stop talking.
Go ahead, Mr. DeSantis.
Mr.
Setting your own
Gibbons,
rules. Go ahead.
in the past few months, the board has failed this community multiple times. The people that are sitting there, and it's a shame those members that really care about the community, about the children, have to be tainted with this board's decisions. I know how tough that can be. But really, each of you that made the decision to send Angela Bender home does not deserve to be there. And I'm hoping the community does something about that.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand Avenue.
Good evening, Mrs. Moon.
Good evening. First of all, before I go through basically other comments, at the beginning of the program tonight, there was a presentation by the children. And I believe it was Berlinda that said something about greening the school. And I heard mention of the green team. For the record, I'm chair of the green team. So I have been trying hard to try to get a representative from the school district to come back on to take Mr. Koenig's place now that he's retired. And for this school to finally start participating in sustainable schools. And as was stated, there's grants, there's a lot of stuff out there. You're doing it anyway. It makes no sense that you're not participating in this. And they can certainly come to any of our meetings, which are the third or fourth Thursday of the month. It's tomorrow. Okay. You know, I left it.
I was going to ask what time. And usually
7
at town
o'clock
hall?
at the courthouse.
7
Courtroom.
o'clock.
7, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tomorrow we have a meeting, so whatever, it's the fourth Thursday of the month, I believe it is, right? Tomorrow's the fourth Thursday.
Tomorrow we have a retreat, but
Unfortunately, we have a
Right,
retreat,
I
but
know.
I'd
I
like
was
to
planning on
attend.
going
I know
to the
you were.
meeting.
Yes.
On another note, I left this meeting last week And I can't even say I was disappointed. I was mind boggled at what transpired here. It became very obvious that we have a segment of the board that is going to do what they want to do regardless of what anybody says. And that became very obvious to me. I've been going to board meetings since the 90s. My husband served on the board years ago. I've seen a lot of you, a few of you on and off through the years. But this was beyond what I could have fathomed. So now you're going to start a school year off with not only a new acting superintendent, because that's how I will refer to him, regardless of whatever rulings you guys decide on. You have a new BA again, who I really feel sorry for, because she's kind of taken a hit tonight with not having answers that people are looking for. And obviously the board doesn't have those answers either. So to some extent,
That they would be emailed that the answers,
Right,
because we
but-
didn't have financial numbers, questions that.
right, but
it was.
if a seasoned board, if we had a seasoned BA like we had years ago where they stayed for years, they usually knew almost anything you asked. Maybe we were spoiled by that.
And Mrs. Mahul, with all due respect, we can give you another 2 minutes.
Thank
when
you.
everyone is done here.
Thank you. I'm curious as to how you're going to start the school year off with a new BA, a new superintendent, a group of principals who are basically new. They maybe have a year in or they're starting now. And what I heard, which totally, if I had seen it, I was blown away by the fact that you're going to be room sharing. Yeah, maybe room sharing in one period, one person does that room and the following period, another teacher comes in. But trying to have two classes in the room at the same time with two teachers that's absolutely ridiculous. I've been in education for over 30 years. I have never heard of that. So are we in that kind of situation that we have to go to that? There's a problem, and it's a bigger problem than anything else we're dealing with right now. So I guess my comments are, I really hope you guys wake up and see what you're doing to this district. And as a taxpayer in this district, I'm sick of the taxes, most of our taxes going to the schools. And at least if you're going to spend it properly on the kids, I have no problem with that. But I don't see that happening. And to our two newest members, I wish you good luck, and I hope to see you here next year, because with the rate that this board goes, it's a constant turnover.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Mohel. And
You're
just to comment, dual purpose rooms have been approved for over 20 years in this district.
Have you ever taught in one?
Yes, I have.
And you think it's fine? You have so
It
many
depends on how many
distractions.
students we have. It depends on the size of the room. There are a lot of factors.
Yeah, so what rooms are we going into? These rooms here? They're not built for that.
I understand that dual purpose rooms have been used. Is it effective? We don't know. My concern is that, Mr. Cathcart, Trustee Cathcart and I, we went to the meeting the other day and we know that there's a development going up, and I like to think about the future. And my youngest is in Roosevelt. There were 26 kids in his kindergarten class. So we have buildings going up. We're overcrowded. To me, it's a concern as a parent of 5 children, And also, I just want to, you told Mrs. Sadler, before I forget, that there's not going to be any cuts in programs.
Yes.
You said programs, and Ms. McNeil came up and she said, oh, you're not going to, basically say, she reiterated what you said. There's no cuts in programs.
Correct.
But to me, it's not only about programs. You have services, you have teachers. I was here with a lot of these parents when you outsourced, but not you, but when the board outsourced the aides and the custodians. That was detrimental to my child
It
and to
was.
all children.
It was detrimental
I
to the
understand that.
community,
Excuse me,
and that
I'm
was-
sorry. Can I speak? Thank you very much. And I'm very disrespectful. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No problem.
Okay, but I want to just confirm that you're telling us that I'm here as a board, but also as a parent. There's not going to be any cuts at all.
Yes.
At all. At all.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hey.
Make sure.
Hey.
At all.
Evening, ma'am.
Leslie
Okay,
Gottlieb,
at all.
464A Liberty Street, Little Ferry. Changing the topic a little. What is the current tuition from Little Ferry to RP, and what is the details of the amounts that were under litigation, the back tuition? How many years and how many dollars? Does anyone know?
Yes.
Mr. Demikoff, if you want to answer to that,
Uh,
the tuition rates.
They know.
I don't have the contract in front of me, but certainly the contract states what the rates are. And as far as, what was the other question? I'm sorry. You wanted to know what the status was of, could you say that again, please? What
I'm
was
not,
the question?
Mrs. Ali,
The question was, how many years and what amounts were under litigation for back tuition, and what is the current tuition?
Well, Little Ferry had to pay 251,000 plus 1 year in back tuition and 534,000 plus. And now there is a request based on the decision by Judge Bass that they owe us another $1,042,725.27. That's adjusted rates for past one of the past years. So that's the amount of money that.
Mr. Demikoff, I'm sorry, just so we're clear, isn't it true that outside that $1 million, Little Ferry's paid in full for all previous debts, and we paid that just before June 30th?
That's exactly right.
Outside, okay, no, I'm just asking, because this
and
new,
also
I know, just if I finish so up until this new ruling, this was just filed just maybe a week or a couple weeks ago about this other $1 million. Up until that filing, everything else has been paid in full and we're up to date, correct? But this new thing is this new $1,067,000 or whatever the exact amount is something that has just been filed in the month of July, correct?
No,
It's
in the
not.
month of June.
All right, June 30th, I think it was maybe the last day of the month before Mr. Tevis left. However, it's predicated on the ruling, not on any previous monies that have been deemed due at any prior time, correct?
This
is a function. That's what I'm saying. It's a function of the ruling just came out, and from the previous issue with the 534,000 that was paid based on that ruling. Yeah, I'm just being clear so we can all be on the same page. I just want to bring some more clarity to this point, because everybody's asking about where Little Ferry stands and that we're all this money. And I want to be clear that through June 30th, we have paid everything that was past due. And this is now a function of the ruling, a function of a filing that was just made on June 29th or June 30th by Mr. Tevis just as he was leaving, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all.
The only thing that's an open issue is that the contracts that the judge ordered to be signed were not signed. Still have not been signed to my knowledge. I've asked for copies of those contracts, 1920, 2021. They still have not been signed by Little Ferry. Maybe you can help us get those signed. Because right now we're not in
I'll
compliance
absolutely
with the
look
judge's
into it.
order.
I'll absolutely look into it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Democrat, true or false, though? Contracts weren't signed, they were paid, though, correct? You'll get the signed contract, but they were paid, correct?
Excuse me, I said they were paid. You paid the 534,000 on June 4th. You still have not signed the contract. That's fact.
That's right. So you will
I
get the
didn't say
signed
you didn't
contract.
pay.
Okay.
I did
But I
not
mean,
say you didn't pay.
But saying
Let's
we
be clear.
didn't sign sends a signal that we didn't pay. Understood?
No, it doesn't. It said you
It
didn't
does.
sign the
They're water under the
contracts.
bridge contracts. You will get them. And as far as the
Then
$1,042,000,
sign them.
I would think that the
Sign
board
them.
president, the acting superintendent may have an internal leak That should never get public because they just sent us the correspondence on June 26th. I don't understand how the public has the number already unless somebody internally is handing it over. We pay over
Well, it's
$5.5 million a year for 300 students here, and they get paid every month on time. Now, when you stick us with a bill of $613,000, and then all of a sudden you find out, no, it was 534, I have the right to question things. And I did have the right to question things because you were off $80,000. So let's be clear and let's be fair. This is a partnership. We want to be here. This is a good school system. The thing you do incorrectly, you don't advertise it enough. You just don't. You guys have a really good system. You don't advertise it. I advocate for it. You get kids that can come to this school, got a four-year degree, get a four-year high school diploma and a two-year college diploma. And I bet you 65% of the population in Ridgefield Park don't know it. And I guarantee 80% don't know it in Little Ferry. Very bad advertisement. And I'm willing to work with Dr. Haynes to make it better. And let's show what we have. It's just a matter of showcasing the great programs you have. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Scarifield. And we have discussed this in policy, and we're going to set up a special time period for each committee meeting to singularly discuss issues having to do with Little Ferry, because Little Ferry is a part of us. Thank you.
And Mr. Gibbons, one more time. I never said that Little Ferry did not pay their bill. I said they did not sign the contract. And if somebody wants to interpret that as saying that they didn't pay the bill, that is their problem because I did not say that.
Nobody, listen, I think I was just trying to clear the point that was brought up by numerous people prior previously in tonight's meeting. So I didn't say anything at first,
I'm
but
not
now that we're on the
talking to you,
top,
Dick.
I understand, but I'm just trying to clear the point. I'm not looking to argue here. I mean, it's already on, we're at 3-4 hours into these meetings. I'm not looking to argue or belabor the point. However, so everybody's clear, because not everybody seems to know the story, we are paid in full through June 30th. We have paid everything. This new issue that somebody brought up of $1 million, I haven't even had it. We really haven't even talked about it in our own board yet, as our meeting is tomorrow, and the public seems to know about it. However, be that as it may, it's a very new issue. It's not even been 25 days since it's been filed. We haven't even had people look through it yet. It's still in the process of being vetted. So as we go through this process, everybody wants to point the ugly stick at Little Ferry that we are not paying. We pay in excess of $16,000 per year per student. And it now just got reduced, I think, down to 15.9 based on the audited financials for the current school year. So we are paying full freight here, right? And we also are subsidizing busing and also sharing a counselor and trying to do a bunch of other things. So when we look at this, all we're trying to do is make this as seamless a process as possible. Somebody spoke about test scores earlier. Somebody spoke about English and math. We're on the same page. We are trying to align curriculums. We're trying to work together, as we have been since I've been on this board as a representative for Little Ferry since January of 2016. This is what we are trying to do. We want everybody, so that not the Ridgefield Park kids are doing world history and Little Ferry's doing US history, and we come in 9th grade and kids aren't on the same platform. We're trying to align everything so everybody comes in, it's seamless. Right? We want kids in Little Ferry to want to be Scarlets, to want to wear the red and white, to want to come to football games as 7th, 8th graders, to say, I want to be a Scarlet, like my kids are currently. My daughter just graduated, my son's a senior. This is what we want. We want to build a bridge between the districts that's seamless, that you don't know, when you walk into school, you don't know if it's a Little Ferry kid or a Ridgefield Park kid, they're Scarlets. This is what we want to do. But everybody wants to point the ugly stick at Little Ferry sticking you, or we're not paying our fair share. That couldn't be further from the truth. The check gets cut every month.
Thank you, Mr. Pietros. And just to say again, Little Ferry is a part of us. A lot of our best friends are from Little Ferry. We discussed having a committee singularly for Little Ferry items and everything together. And it was discussed that in committees, we will have a special section to discuss everything having to do with Little Ferry. Thank you though, Mr. Pritros, and thank you. Good evening.
Okay, Elaine Marin, 7th Street. So I just informally kind of posted and said if anybody wants to say something, but they don't feel comfortable, I'd be willing to share. So I'm going to start with other people's thoughts first. I'm going to need more time, so I'll just keep coming back.
Yeah, well, after the 3 minutes, we
I'll
can give you
cut-
two
yep.
after
Got
the
it.
last person is completed.
Got it.
Thank
As
you.
a resident of Ridgefield Park, now this is written by a teacher, she sent this to me. As a resident of Ridgefield Park for 20 plus years and having had my children go through our school system, I have seen many changes. In the past few years, I have been extremely happy to see representation on the board who had some background in education. As an educator myself, it was easy to see that our board was moving in a direction to bring some changes needed to benefit all students in today's challenging times. Unfortunately, in my opinion, in the last board election, the majority of those who voted got it all wrong. Today, we as a town are seeing actions taken by a more one-sided board that doesn't appear to see eye to eye. The bottom line is that now we are faced with another year of our students and teachers coming back to uncertainty. You'd think some members of the board would realize what they have already been through this school year with the pandemic and try to provide stability. There is no way to deny that Dr. Bender had the students of Ridgefield Park in her mind as soon as she took over as superintendent. The fact that 3 members of the board that are highly respected disagree with the actions to suspend Dr. Bender at the last meeting also speaks volumes. My statement, or rather questions, to those board members who voted to suspend Dr. Bender are as follows. Have you driven past any of the 3 elementary schools while the Meadowlands Environmental Center's mobile food lab was parked outside? If I were you, I'd check it out because parents and students from all 3 schools are excited and engaged in educational fun activities. Did anyone participate? You did? Okay. So just one? Okay. Did you participate? Did you attend the workshop?
I work very closely with the program that I run with the Bergen County Environmental Center as well.
So you attended the programs here?
The programs here, I have seen the programs running, yes.
Could you tell me what they were?
Ms. Marin.
I'm sorry, they were very simple activities. Could you tell me what they were? This teacher wants to know if you attended.
I just want to break in and share. I
Right.
share many pictures and stories and narratives and many things about the Meadowlands and keep the board informed about all the great things that are going on. So the board is informed through many of the newsletters that I share with them. Yes.
That wasn't the question.
And ma'am,
All right.
just, we're wrapping up time here and
Okay.
after, you could
she's-
have
this is
another
almost
2
done.
minutes
Have you,
after the
don't,
rest of
you're
the
taking away my
meeting.
time. All right, have you spoken to any middle school students who participated in the floating island program? And she says, if I were you, I'd ask them because you'll be pleasantly surprised by their responses. Summer school programs are running smoothly. The 3 elementary principals hired by Dr. Bender are doing amazing jobs, and more new educational materials are being delivered to all schools than most years prior. Luckily for our children's sake, this summer, Dr. Bender put this all in motion. Never before have we had such diverse and challenging programs been offered during the summer to the children of our schools. She is a positive force, and it is disheartening what a loss you have orchestrated for the youth of our village. I ask you to carefully consider that you are a representative of the children of Ridgefield Park, and I implore you to make every decision with them in mind. Okay, I'll be back.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening.
Carol Velez, 95 Laurel Street.
Good evening, ma'am.
I am so angry right now, but I just want to say, if we've always had overcrowding in the school. My kids are graduates of Ridgefield High School. Now my son is graduating at the end of the fall from college. So I've worked very hard. I've attended many meetings. I pay a lot of taxes, only to see that the classrooms continue to be overcrowded. Now we're considering something I've never heard of before, which is dual classroom. Are we that poor? Now, here's a thought. Why doesn't Little Ferry build their own high school? And then we won't have so much overcrowding in our schools, especially when all these new developments come up. What is the benefit of having Little Ferry merged with our school?
Little Ferry has been a part of our school
I
system
understand
for
that. What
many,
is the
many years.
benefit?
They are part of us, just like we are.
No,
the
they're
left
not.
hand,
They're Little
they're the right.
Ferry.
Little
we're
Ferry is a
Ridgefield
huge part of
Park.
our
No, we're
programs.
not related. We're not friends. They don't pay my taxes. Now, if they come and pay half
They
of my
pay, their students
taxes,
pay to come
I
here.
will love them. I will
Their
embrace
taxpayers
them.
pay us for their kids to come here.
They're
to
not
use our
paying my
programs.
taxes. I'm paying taxes for their children to also come to this school, to an overcrowded already classroom. Do you have children? No.
I don't know what that really has anything to do
It
with
means that you don't know the pain of having a child in a crowded classroom.
Ma'am,
You don't
I've
know
devoted my
the
whole
pain. I
life
don't
to
care
the special needs
You
population.
don't know the pain of dual
And
classroom.
you
Are
don't
you
know me
kidding me?
either.
I'm gonna pay $15,000 a year so children in this district go to a dual classroom? Really? I had the same conversation with Mr. Koenig how many years ago? And guess what? He didn't have the answers either. Thank you.
Jay Sean Sadler, 139 Overpeck Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Sadler.
Good evening, thank you. I just had to come back up to respectfully correct something that Mr. Cathcart said earlier. I do have to, I absolutely do have to. According to the CDC, whose website I'm reading off of right now, while fewer children have been sick with COVID-19 compared to adults, children can be infected with the virus that causes COVID-19, can get sick from COVID-19, and contrary to what you said, Mr. Cathcart, can spread the virus that causes COVID-19 to others. This is according to the CDC's website. I am not finished. Let me finish, please.
First off,
Let me finish. I said, be respectful, sir. Be respectful, sir. Be respectful, sir. I am speaking right now. Please be respectful. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
No, you do that. I'm speaking and you interrupted me. Let's get that straight. You please be respectful to me. Thank you very much. Thank you. I regret voting for you, sir.
Well, thank you.
Excuse me. I will finish. Children, like adults who have COVID-19 but have no symptoms, can still spread the virus to others, contrary to what you said, Mr. Cathcart. It is very irresponsible of you to state the opposite to the public here in Ridgefield Park.
Well, okay, but the CDC has recently put that out. Prior to that, the CDC didn't say it. Listen, I've read multiple studies. Multiple studies, the Stanford study, the Columbia study at that time said those that children did not spread the disease. Okay, you can't, the CDC's all over.
Okay, so you're taking up my time speaking about
Well, you asked me to answer.
nebulous studies. I'm talking about the CDC here. I don't know what, what studies you're citing. What studies are you citing, sir? Please let us know.
I'm citing the Stanford study, the Columbia
The
University
Stanford study?
Yes.
Could you please produce that for the public so we can see it, sir?
I said that the Dr. Binder, along with other studies, to prove my point. I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me, please. So she should have them on file, and I'll check my computer to see if I have them on file and send them to you.
Okay, so I will state once again that Mr. Cathcart is categorically wrong, and he is demonstrating exactly why he should not hold the position he has. And I firmly regret voting for him and encouraging others to do the same.
Mr.
I will
Sadler.
also say, excuse me, I'm speaking. I will also say, and I have 5 minutes actually, not the 3 like you've been wrongly stating against your own
spoke
rules, which you
before,
stated.
and-
I will
and
say
then
also,
after
sir, I'm
3,
speaking.
you have
Please
2.
stop interrupting me. It's very
So
disrespectful.
5 minutes.
I will also
total.
say that my experience here, which is very disappointing, has been that you guys, not everyone, but most of you, unfortunately, on this board have made a mockery of these meetings. We're citizens here, we pay taxes, we leave our families and come to express our opinions, to express our concerns, and I feel that you guys completely ignore us. You guys are completely intransigent. You kind of dutifully listen to what we say, but you don't hear, you don't take us seriously. You're very patronizing and paternalistic, and you have to go. We will do something about it, I promise you. You will all be held fully accountable.
Have a good evening. Thank you. Mr. Hidalgo.
Ronald Hidalgo, 335 Teaneck Road. And let me finish with, I was asking before, and then I will ask 2 questions to the board. And I'm going to be real brief. I'm just going to say it, and I will expect an email from Dr. Hayes. I just handed him my email. I would like to have the answers. Was there any transition from Dr. Bender to you? Did you meet with her? How many times did you meet with her? Or are you working with Mr. Demakov in order to achieve the goals that were set by Dr. Bender for the school district? I expect an answer. No, you don't have to answer it because I don't have a lot of time because I'm going to be cut because I'm not talking in favor of the board. If I were talking in favor of the board, I could have 10
That
minutes
is
and I could talk.
absolutely not true and false.
Okay, I know. Here's the question for the board. Do you guys represent Ridgefield Park or Little Ferry?
We represent the village of Ridgefield Park, and which I have represented my whole life in one way or another.
Okay. This question is not for the board, actually, it's for Carrie. Carrie, would you like to answer if district employee can run candidates for the board?
I'm not
This
sure.
is a question.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Can a district employee run candidates for the board?
A district employee is permitted to support and endorse a candidate for the board. I'm not sure what you mean by run, but a district employee, I'm not sure what you mean by run, but a district employee is permitted to endorse or support and vote for a candidate for the Board of Education.
Monetary?
You can lawfully, according to the ELEC rules, contribute to a campaign the same way that any individual is permitted to contribute to a campaign.
Isn't that an ethics board? An ethics charge?
So that's a different,
Because
that's a
he's
different,
because
that's a different question.
personal interest.
Respectfully,
He's
you have
running the
to,
candidate because of personal interest.
Trying to answer. And after that, we'll conclude your statement.
I didn't
And
hear his
and
question.
one more, when Ed was talking about, when you asked Ed about who was the president when with the $2.5 million, I actually was sitting in this room when I saw Ed vote to remove Koenig from the board.
I don't even. Good evening.
Good evening. At DeSantis 15 Homestead Place.
So, Mr. DeSantis, you have 2 minutes from the 3 that you had before, which equals 5.
I will be very brief. Number one, just a couple of things in terms of procedure. It is 5 minutes plus, and it's in the policy exactly that way. Also, when the public is talking, we're not supposed to have board members arguing with the public, miscellaneous board members. Doesn't mean they don't have an opinion, but that's not the purpose of public comment, nor is it for somebody to pontificate remotely on and on. So I'm not here to argue about mass or what Little Ferry pays. And this is not about Dr. Haynes in particular. So just keep smiling, Dr. Haynes, is that the contract for Dr. Haynes came back, had to be changed. Did you run the contract back to the board attorney and Mr. Demkoff before it went the first time?
Everything that has been done has been followed by legal counsel.
That's not what I asked. I asked if you ran it by Kerry Wright and Mr. Demkoff.
It ran, can you be more specific, ran what by?
Ran the contract by them.
Everything has been done properly with legal counsel.
You did not answer the question. So Mr. Demkoff or Mrs. Wright, Ms. Wright, they run the contract by you?
So I think the question the revision that was requested by the executive county superintendent was to the board resolution. The executive county superintendent has not seen a contract yet for Dr. Haynes.
Have you seen the contract yet?
I drafted a contract.
Okay. And Mr. Demikoff, did they run the contract by you before submission?
It hasn't been submitted and I haven't seen it, so it has not been submitted to the county office.
So waiting for county approval, it hasn't even been submitted, and you didn't work with the state monitor again. I don't get it. I really
All
don't get
protocols
it.
have been followed properly.
I've been through this enough times, so you can't kid me. So, I mean, come on.
Hasn't even been drafted. Everything's
Hasn't
been
it-
followed with the county superintendent and
All
commissioner.
right, let's not get into that. I'm not going to argue with individual board members. All I know is this district was on a good path. Dr. Bender was here. The board is not putting children first. You're putting the board first. Whatever agenda you put on the table, you got another one someplace in your heads, whatever. But you really got to get your act together, because these kids have 1 year in 7th grade and 1 year in 10th grade, 1 year in 3rd grade, and the year they lose because of your decisions, they'll never get back.
Good evening. You will have the remaining 2 minutes from your 5-minute total.
Okay, so my next one is also from a staff. Many staff members are thrilled and grateful for the changes and educational experiences that are happening because of Dr. Bender. Summer school and extended school year programs have become more interesting and educational for our students. Now I have a parent one. When my son started kindergarten at TJ, Dr. Bender was the principal. I had many concerns, and she not only professionally addressed them, but she also managed to calm my fears as a first-time mom. Fast forward 6 years later, and in the middle of a pandemic, I had to reach out to Dr. Bender again. My son was drastically behind in school due to the pandemic, and it began impacting his mental health. He was overstimulated at home. There was a drastic decline in his academics and social and emotional health. I reached out to the school, who gave me a lot of pushback in getting him immediate services while we waited for an evaluation from the CST. I emailed Dr. Bender. She called me the following morning. Within 20 minutes, I had a meeting with the CST supervisor, school principal, guidance counselor, and Dr. Bender. Dr. Bender heard me. She ran that meeting with the best interests of my child at hand. Within a week, my son was tested and placed in the resource room. He was then fully evaluated and placed in a self-contained classroom, receiving more services than I even thought he needed. Had I not gotten Dr. Bender involved when I did, my son would not be progressing the way he is now. My oldest son was also fully mainstream this year, and I strongly believe it was due to the decision Dr. Bender made to reopen schools 5 days a week. I had nothing but positive experiences with Dr. Bender. I hope she can stay and continue to prove to us all the amazing things she can do for our children's education. Education should be about the children, not politics. It is infuriating to think we have such, I'm not going to read that, people sitting on the BOE. We finally have someone who is all about the children, and she is being taken from them. This school system has been through enough. We cannot afford a lawsuit, let alone pay 2 superintendent salaries at the same time. Perhaps the BOE should take a step back, resign, and take their political agendas elsewhere. Oh, I have more time. Okay, I'm going to start my,
Thank you, ma'am.
oh, I still have a minute, don't I?
No, it's actually 5 minutes. When you spoke once for 3
Oh,
minutes,
okay, I'll
it's
get
2 minutes and it equals
Back on the
5.
line.
Thank you. Well, the 5 minutes total has been reached. Then the other people have to be there. I don't know who you're, if. Well, ma'am, that's the policy. We reviewed it very clearly. And I read the statement again. I could read the statement again if you'd like. But good evening, ma'am.
My name is Dawn Dwyer, 199 Bergen Turnpike, Ridgefield Park. I'm very happy to see that Dr. Bender is here because I would like to express my gratitude, appreciation for bringing the Meadowlands Environmental Center to the district. This is the perfect example of her dedication and performance in raising the bar. Both of my children really, really enjoy the program. They cannot wait until I get home from work so that they can tell me all about what they learned. The mobile food lab has not only taught them where herbs and spices come from, the science behind popping of popcorn, but as flavor combinations as well. They both would never have tried flavors that were offered at home. My question to the board specifically, Dr. Haynes, will this program be offered next year if Dr. Bender is not reinstated?
I'm going to put a little context in the answer to that because Dr. Bender hired me and worked closely with me, and we worked together to put this program into this district. It is out of the fund called ESSER 2, of which about $40,000 is allocated for the mobile food labs along with the Meadowlands programs. And Field Trip Fridays cost another $30,000, which I put into the budget, which should allow students to take additional field trips throughout the year. The next funding that comes up is called the American Rescue Plan, the ARP, which gives this district $3.3 million, which we will go ahead and put in an application for in November. And working closely with the Meadowlands, I would like to believe that I can take that money, some of it, and use it for additional Meadowlands programs next year. Understand, this is not a school line item budget. It is not in our annual school budget. It's being funded by additional grants that we are using for this program because we believe in it so strongly.
So with all the, well, the board doesn't seem to feel that there will be any cuts, but if there were to be any cuts based on the decisions that were made, would this program be one of the first ones?
I'm sorry, we're talking apples and oranges because the board is talking about the annual school budget, and I'm talking about there are 3 additional grants that we're using to fund some of these inquiry-based hands-on science programs that we're using to get kids back interested in school again. That's our goal. And those funds are the ESSER 2, the ESSER 3, and the American Rescue Plan. It is not a school-based budget. It's a different funding source. It's a different
Okay.
container.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue, Ridgefield Park, New Jersey.
Good evening, Mr. Raftery.
Thank you. In regards to the Little Ferry situation, we're spending a whole lot of time and effort on this, when in reality, what I understand about it, and I've read on it, was Ridgefield Park and Little Ferry made a buddy-buddy agreement rather than come up with a true cost per student, I believe it's called, by the state, going by that and not having any problems. Instead, we got deeper and deeper and deeper in over 5 years, and that was done by the Ridgefield Park Board of Education. I know the answer to that. I wasn't here. The answer to that is you're here today when we're going to spend $500,000 to have our superintendent of school sit home. Follow through on that. I have received no comment from the state or the Board of Education or the acting superintendent of school on the grade level of our students in Ridgefield Park. No comment whatsoever. Sounds about right. What are we going to do? Leave them at the level they're at? 15 to 20% below in math, below average in English? Is that the plan? Or are we going to wait till we drop another bomb and carry on some more BS? I am asking everyone in this room to think about what is right. Making our children the best they can be, it is what's right. That does not seem to be happening right now. There is a wall between us, and it must come down. It must come down. Our children must succeed. Dr. Haynes?
Sir,
No comment?
I would love to comment. I'm going to take up some of your time. You asked previously about our students performing below state average, which is on the metric of the New Jersey Student Learning Standard for the last time our students took that test, the student learning test, which was 2018-19. And since then, I am very confident in telling you, back to your statement, our students must succeed. The Board of Education, the administrators in the district, and all of the teachers and all the staff absolutely agree with you. We use different metrics because we can't look back 3 years ago. We use metrics such as the board has a goal of using Linkit to look at student data on an ongoing progressive schedule. They use the new math program, the Savas Math. They use the new English, which is Pontus and Pinnell, and we're using a new science and a new science consultant this year. So we can't look back at old metrics. We are looking at daily metrics, and we are helping our teachers and supporting our teachers to make sure, as you just said, they succeed. That's our plan going forward.
That sounds great with you here, Dr. Haynes, until you're gone. Then we're back to square one again, just like we are today. We're back to square one. We can't even answer if what we paid Little Ferry because we are on our 6th business administrator in about 3 years. And that, sir, is the work of our Board of Education. And I ask them to please consider that, think about that. And what can you do to straighten that situation out?
Thank you, Mr. Raftery.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Rafferty, just to respond to your question regarding Little Ferry, I think Mr. Demirkov can agree with me in saying that up to date, Little Ferry has caught up.
I have made no negative comments about Little
I just wanna
Ferry
make
at
sure I
all.
address
What
that.
I said was the whole reason for that
Well,
was the
there are
Board of
contracts that
Education.
should be getting signed. I think
That is, Little Ferry and Ridgefield Park are on the same side, okay?
But there
The
is no more
problem was
handshake
caused by the
deals.
Board of Education.
There is no more handshake deals. I think you heard Mr. Demirkov saying that there are contracts to be signed that he is going to approve legally, and his whole supervision.
And thank you, Mr. Raftery. We went way over the time.
Yes, sir, thank
If
you.
we could have the next speaker. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Schmidt. And again, I will yield 2 minutes, so we equal
No
5
problem.
minutes.
It's quick.
Thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate again, a little more specifically to the parents, especially Mr. Sadler, who I've spoken to, that I am not against precautions and protecting children against COVID or the spread of COVID. I'm simply a firm believer that the masks are not the solution, especially given the current state that we are in. The numbers speak for themselves, and I base this on several studies that have since come out since the beginning of the pandemic. So this isn't a one size fits all. It's not a year and a half ago. We are in a different place now. And I think for the record, we all want our kids to be safe and our adults to be safe. And we all want what's best for all of the children, or we wouldn't be here. So I just want to be clear. I simply disagree that the masks are an answer. I don't believe they're effective. And I base that on science. I base it on studies and research that has since come out. It's public. If anyone's interested, I'm happy to share it. That's all I wanted to say. And I also wanted to get an answer to my question about the survey that will be conducted. I believe it's August. Will we know the results of the survey? I understand we probably won't know how many kids are vaccinated or not vaccinated. But will we have some sense of what the results of the survey are?
We will absolutely have the results of the survey. And like you said, with, HIPAA compliance, everyone, doesn't have to answer, but hopefully, it's anonymous, I'm sure, and they can answer these questions so that we have a better understanding of how many students are vaccinated.
Okay, thank you.
And I also think we have an ongoing number with staff as well. Nurse Aguilar could comment on that further next time. Thank you, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Helen Castillo. I live at 40 College Place. I'm speaking for Elaine. She has a message from Chicky Jaws. Hi, Elaine. My name is Karen Kessler, 41 South Street. Can you send me the
and
she
that's
wanted a link.
Ms. Marin, I get Elaine.
I'm sorry?
Elaine, you said you're speaking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
She needed more minutes, so I'm giving her my minutes. So Karen Kessler from 41 South Street. wanted the link for tonight's meeting. I support Dr. Bender 100%, and the Boys Club has to go. It's about time we as parents, guardians have full knowledge of what is being done to Dr. Bender and our children's education. I also believe sports are important. Also, but some that are on this board put that first instead of education. I, for one, knew that when this pandemic started, there were many challenges and obstacles to go through. I, for one, understood the severity of keeping our children safe. She has done the right thing by going by science. I would like to know who would put our children last. I am sure I don't expect some of the board members to own what they are doing because some of them didn't get their way. Typical of a boys club, I just want the board to know my whole family is in favor of bringing Dr. Bender back and ousting certain board members. I am certainly not afraid of the big boys club. It needs to stop. It has been going on for years. Let's end it by voting and recanting their votes and replace them with one that actually listens to us women, parents, and guardians. It's about our children's education and their mental stability. Stop the BS nonsense. My voice as a taxpayer and a parent has to be heard. Elaine, I spent 1 hour trying to be called on and never got a chance to speak. This is what oh no, she said, she's basically saying that she tried to get called on Zoom and no one called on her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And just to clarify, the majority of our administrators and supervisors are female, and we have a great female business administrator as well, and Mrs. Grabstein. Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to yield 2 minutes to equal 5 minutes because you had 3 before.
No,
ma'am.
I'm still taking my first time. I just want to make a point here. First of all, you cannot say that the insurance company is going to pay for this when they find out that this is all nonsense and frivolous. And secondly, you cannot say that nothing is going to be cut next year and that when you don't even know how much this is going to cost. And I'm going to reserve the balance of my time and I'm going to give it to Elaine. And whether you like it or not.
We're not doing that, ma'am.
There have been people that have been up here 3 and 4 times.
We're not
Let
reserving
Miss
time.
Marin speak.
We're not reserving time. We have,
Because I've been attending board meetings for 6 years now, and I've never been told that I could not speak. I've come up
when
numerous
reviewing the
times.
policy, I could read it again.
So maybe you should.
That's what it is. You have
and
3
then-
minutes and we
then
reserve
that
another
should have
2,
been read,
which
say,
equals
okay,
5
moving
minutes,
forward
which is in
with
the
next
policy.
meeting, because as I said, I was representing other people's people. I would not have even put that out there if I knew I couldn't get my words out. So
Ma'am,
maybe
if
you should have
other
just put that into
We have Zoom.
online.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. All right. So I did a little research for this. So according to the frequently asked questions portion of the New Jersey School Boards Association website that refers to roles and responsibilities, board members should be aware that they are elected to represent the entire district in all matters pertaining to education and not any one segment. Further, teamwork between the board and superintendent is essential. And lastly, board members should look to the superintendent for leadership and guidance on educational procedures. According to, I watched all these videos. According to the Being an Effective Board Member video, there were 3 important areas: people skills and learning how to listen to others, networking and connecting with other school boards and other districts to get ideas and see how they do things, and finding out how and where to obtain information to make informed decisions. In another video entitled Roles and Responsibilities, the job's most important focus should be on the best interest of all and looking at the broader picture. That video lists 4 important areas: guidance through policy, quality instruction, effective management and oversight, effective two-way communication between the board to superintendent and board to community. The theme in everything I've read and watched was decisions made for all and effective communication. There is a clear contradiction between those statements and what I have witnessed for years, but especially this last year regarding the loan repayment and Dr. Bender's position. At the last board meeting, every single person who stood up at the podium or raised their hand to speak via Zoom praised Dr. Bender and implored you all to vote no. Not one person, and I'm not naive to think that everyone supports her, but not one person actually stood up to say that the resolution was favorable. And if the board had a two-way correspondence with anyone privately who agreed with the resolution, well, that would be a violation according to what I read on the NJSBA website. So for all intents and purposes, you were bombarded with praise and dissuaded from sending her home. This is exactly why the thank you for your comments was a slap in the face to everyone who attended when you voted to send her home with no explanation, despite the public outcry. However ethical it was to not divulge personnel matters, it was also an insult knowing several of you had no concern about ethics or problem sharing your thoughts about matters such as getting rid of the state monitor, insect issues last year, and decisions about the football season this year. Even though it clearly weakened and compromised Dr. Bender's leadership role. Sadly, there has been a complete lack of respect for Dr. Bender and a total disregard for the public.
Thank you, ma'am.
It is further apparent you are not doing the job you were selected to do. I spoke
We've gone way
collectively,
over the time limit.
but I'm going to talk about some of the others. So
We have other members of the public that would like to speak as well.
I think that they're okay with it. So when people have asked me what's going on, I've been honest and I've said, I don't know, but I have supported my feelings that it's nonsensical by mentioning those who voted no. Dr. Martinez, Mrs. O'Neill, and Ms. Rodriguez are respected members of the community who all have children currently in the school district, 3 individuals who are all professionals in the helping fields, a psychologist with a PhD, and 2 educators with at least, 20 years experience.
Ma'am, I'd like to have other members of the comments
I'm
speak.
almost done. I'll cut it.
We've
I'll cut
gone
it.
way over
I'll
the
cut
time
it.
limit.
I'll cut it down. So I'm putting value on what I do know. Unlike the majority who either have high school age children, have children older than me, or have no children at all, I have faith that these 3 understand what kids of different ages and academic, social, and physical abilities in today's day and age need. Again, as someone who has attended meetings since 2015, I have watched how they have voted on controversial issues since they have become board members. I have faith that they voted in a way that would benefit all children as well as the community. As a parent of a struggling female 2nd grader and as a parent of a gifted female 7th grader, neither of who are interested in playing sports, I have a fiduciary responsibility to them, and I have no confidence in most of you making decisions about my children. I'm done.
At DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. I think I have about 30 seconds left. So a couple of quick points. The state monitor, in his defense, he was intricate and that's probably the wrong word. He was so important as us riding the ship. This particular board didn't right the ship. You got $3 million of state aid thrown in your lap. So that didn't happen. He was the man who guided us when the board couldn't govern itself and still can't. So the state monitor, when you say you're not going to cut any programs, I'm not stupid. Because when it comes down to it, if there's not the money in the budget because of lawsuits and giving money back, the state monitor will have to cut the programs. And you're going to sit back and say, well, it wasn't us. It was the state monitor. What a bad guy. The state monitor, for whatever he does get paid, and it's not always $140,000 a year, he's right, has been worth his weight in gold and has saved this district far more than he's ever been paid. On a very last note, Dr. Bender has been an innovator, a master educator, a supporter of the community, a supporter of our children. And I asked that you guys really do the right thing and bring Dr. Bender back.
Good evening.
Hi, Ash. My name is Ashley Castillo, 40 College Place, Ridgefield Park.
Thank you.
It gets me really aggravated to sit here and see all of you guys have side comments and giggle and laugh. But when someone has a question to ask, it's, oh, I'll email them. For what? You're doing it right now. You're still nodding your head. No, don't interrupt me. Do not, no, don't interrupt me. Do not interrupt me.
Well, you wanted an
By all
answer,
means,
so.
with all due respect, I'm sure you're a great guy. And I'm sure, like you said before, Mrs. Bender had hired you. With all due respect, you will never be Mrs. Bender, Dr. Bender, okay? with all due respect, I don't know you, you don't know me, but with all due respect, I'm not here 6 years ago after I graduated fighting for Mrs. Bender. And here we go again with the laughs and the jiggles. You want to be on his good side? Don't cut the football team. Okay? If you want to be on his good side, don't cut the football team. Let them have a season. All right? Because that's all he cares about as a volunteer. Right? Right? And there you go. There's the laughter. Because that's all we're getting. That's all we're getting. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. I have 2 minutes left. Okay? I'm here for Mrs. Bender. Okay? Clearly we're here for the kids, right? Yeah, you're nodding your head. Yeah, we're here for the kids. Absolutely. I agree with you, right? You have a lot of space to fill because the amount of kids that know her is ridiculous. The amount of people that she's touched lives is ridiculous. I guarantee you ask any other kids in these all 3 school districts, if they know any of you guys, probably not. Any other superintendent? I graduated 2015. I've probably been through 3. Yeah, I was close with a few of them, but Mrs. Bender being my principal in elementary school, going from now, how many other board meetings have we had and you see kids here? Young kids talking, young kids on Zoom, speaking for Mrs. Bender. And we're here for the kids, but you guys don't care. You guys don't even care what I'm saying right now. You guys are looking right over me, right over me. You have all these people fighting for Mrs. Bender and there's still not a different mindset? A different mindset? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I'm here 6 years after for fighting for one of the best superintendents ever, who has the best relationships with every kid. With every kid. It's crazy. You guys need to really step up your game because you have a lot of people, and I'm gonna say the word, that hate you guys right now. And why? We're supposed to be together, right? We're supposed to be a community, we're together, not Little Ferry and Ridgefield Park, together. This is not working together. We're here, this is the second time that we're here and we're talking about Mrs. Bender clearly on her side. If we're together, how is this working together if you guys are not even listening to us? You guys have your decision made. We all know that. Listen to us and understand that she cares about our kids and everything else. My time's up. Is that what you're gonna say?
If you'd like to have another
Is that
2
what you
minutes,
say?
you can go
All right,
after
so
the
I'll
2
stay.
people.
Okay.
Thank you. And again, we cannot discuss legal matters.
Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. I've been
evening, Mrs.
sitting back
Malul.
there and just observing the board. And before you close tonight's meeting, what I would personally like to hear is a comment from each of you about what you think we're all here for and what you think you're all here for. That's all I have to say.
Yes, sir, and following on some of the previous speakers in regards to Dr. Bender, the Board of Education has no answer for us. I understand you cannot speak about the legalities of the situation now. But there has been absolutely no reply back to square one about the future of our children and picking it up. There has also been no reply about the 300 people that were here last week, the Zoom, whatever, last month, this month. Everybody's coming up supporting Dr. Bender, and the Board of Ed is in their own world. This is not a personal attack, but it's a fact. The last 7 years of the Board of Ed are a disgrace in Ridgefield Park. Our children has fallen, the level of education has fallen. It's been one thing after another. Massive legal fees. We're broke. We found $2 million. Where did that come from? One thing after another. And now this. Is it possible the Board of Education can hear the people and change their ways? To reflect what the people are looking for? Any reply on that? Dr. Haynes? The people are here. If you have something to say, say it.
I'll take some of your time again.
If you can say anything except your time is up.
There are many wonderful opportunities in Ridgefield Park to build programs to help our students succeed. I'll again go back to the one metric you used was in New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Our students deserve more than ELA and math. Yes, they deserve to succeed in them, but we need capacities and CTE programs and some of the things that we're building in the high school currently. We need to publish them to Little Ferry. We need to get our kids interested in aviations and drones and STEM and science and the programs that we currently have, the culinary arts and business, programs that 7 of our students graduated from this year that gave them 30 college credits through Bergen County Community College. Those are the programs that we have to build towards our students' futures. And I look forward to working with this board and the educators in this district to build those programs so our students have many multiple paths towards success.
Thank you, Mr. Raftery. We'd like to move on to online comments. So if you'd like to wrap it up, I'd appreciate it.
1 minute. That all sounds very nice, but none of it changes the fact that our children are failing. That's very pretty and it sounds oh so nice, but our children are failing. Our Board of Education has blown millions and millions of dollars. The Boys Club continues to exist where people are intimidated and pushed out the door. And it has got to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raftery. If we could please move on to online citizens' comments. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes, good evening. This is Suheni Perez Sadler, 139 Overpeck. Hi,
evening.
so I have a comment and then my son Malik also has a comment. So I believe that given the rules, we should be allotted more time since it's 2 comments. My first one.
Absolutely. You have
Thank
30
you.
minutes,
So the
yes.
first, I would like to again state for the record that we stand with Dr. Bender. We think she did a great job while she was superintendent, and we're hoping that you allow her to continue to do her job. The second question, which I didn't get the response that I need in order for it to be actionable is, Mr. Gibbons, you said there will be no cuts, but we are by definition paying 2 superintendents and also upcoming legal fees. Money doesn't grow on trees. So what is it? Where is the revised budget? When will we be able to see it showing that indeed there will be cuts to programs or staff? You may not call it a cut, but Dr. Haynes is doing 2 jobs. He's doing curriculum and he's also doing superintendent. You cannot do 2 jobs at the same time. So that by definition is a cut to the curriculum job that he was hired to do. So now because he's not able to spend full time doing that job of curriculum, what are the cuts to services, programs, and other things in terms of instruction? How will our children be harmed? You need to be transparent with us. And since day one, this board has not been transparent. There have been already cuts. Dr. Haynes is not doing his full-time job as a curriculum, assistant superintendent. So please don't be disingenuous. We're not stupid. We know what's happening. The other thing is around masks. HIPAA does not, schools are not HIPAA covered entities. We're FERPA covered entities. So this just speaks to the fact that as much as I love teachers, I would never want a teacher to be my surgeon, right? So this is a public health crisis We need Nurse Aguilar and other different health officials, as Dr. Bender has done from day one. She would always bring Nurse Aguilar to speak to us, and we acted in accordance to what the health officials said, because again, there's a lot of misinformation, and I heard some board members themselves talk about HIPAA. Schools are not HIPAA covered entities, they're FERPA covered entities. So that just goes to say that we do not have the content expertise to make these decisions, so please yield to those that do. And now I turn it over to my son, Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler.
My name is Malik Sadler, rising sixth grader. So last board meeting, the board decided to remove Dr. Bender, completely against the will of the people. And I think that the verdict was completely egregious, especially because of the fact that we have had 5 superintendents in the past 7 years. We have finally found one who stuck with the people and who we all loved. To the 6 board members who decided to vote out Dr. Bender, remember that the power is with the people and not the other way around. We voted you in, meaning we can vote you out. I think that this is a very bad look on the board, on these 6 members, because either they did not care about what the people had to say or what the people were thinking, or they just came into the meeting with their own personal agenda. I would also like to mention to Mr. Demikoff that please correct the terrible wrong that the board has made. Yeah. Also, I'd like to mention that 4.1 million cases have been children for COVID-19. In this week alone, there have been 24,000 positive COVID tests from kids. That's why I think that kids, unvaccinated kids, should wear masks in schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Do we have any other public comments on online, Mrs. Luciana? Good evening. We could move to the next one if it's an issue and come back if we're having technical difficulty. Oh, I don't see her on mute. Are you, I don't, it shows it's, can you unmute, please, ma'am? I don't see the mute sign on the end of her screen. Mary, we'll get back to you in a moment. We have Maggie. Good evening.
Yes, Valerie Ferraro, 436 Teaneck Road, Ridgefield Park. Okay, I have a few questions. At the meeting when you voted to send Dr. Bender on administrative leave, the reasoning behind your vote was that you no longer had confidence in her ability to lead the district. So I'm trying to understand how this came about. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but within the last year, Dr. Bender recommended a new position, a principal of a middle school, which you approved. She recommended a principal for the middle school, which you approved. In addition, she made recommendations for a new principal at Roosevelt School, Lincoln School, and Grant School, which, once again, you all approved. Then she recommended a director of curriculum approved by the board, a high school principal approved by the board, a business administrator approved by the board. So I'm finding it very, very hard to understand how you could possibly have voted to bring all of these new people to this district on her recommendation when you're telling us that you have no confidence in her ability. When did this happen? When did you lose confidence when she was making all of these recommendations? Something just does not add up. It's almost impossible for a reasonable person to understand the position of the board who endorsed all of these recommendations. And then you turn around and say that you have no confidence in the same person who made all these recommendations, and you voted upon all of her recommendations. So something is missing in translation and extremely hard for a reasonable person to understand what the true motive is, why you sent this woman on administrative leave. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And as advised by our attorney, we cannot discuss legal matters. Ms. Luciano, if you could promote. After this comment, we're going to close public comments for their night. Thank you, everyone who commented tonight. Okay, I apologize. Actually, two more. I'm sorry. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Hi there. My name is Denise Santana, and I'm calling from 101 Hobart Street. I want to start off. Good evening. I want to start off with the comments about having two classrooms in one. I actually worked in a school district that attempted this idea, and the idea ended up being so terrible, so unproductive, that it was deemed not something that they could continue. And by the next year, they had to cease and remain back to the idea of having one classroom in one classroom. I really think that we are setting our children up for failure, and you need to do whatever you need to do to not proceed forward with that plan. I am telling you right now, I was one of the educators in that classroom, and it was an abomination. You have two professionals in a classroom, each with their own set of students, basically talking over each other. It is a disaster. It is a mess. You are wasting our money, and you are wasting our children's time, and you are going to allow our children to experience more stress, especially at the end of a pandemic, to return to school, and you are effectively going to make our children hate school if you do that. It is not a fun experience. I urge you with all my fiber and all my soul that is within me, do not proceed forward with that plan. You will regret it. And I'm speaking with someone who has had experience. The next comment I would like to make is, I love seeing all the parents that are over there at the meeting. I wish I could be amongst you all, and I will be present in the next board meeting, and I hope many of you will be as well. I am so saddened to know that Dr. Bender is there, and I cannot see her beautiful face because whenever she is present somewhere, she just lights up the room. My next comment is I actually want to thank the Board of Education. Because of the decisions you have made, you have brought us together as a community. And I am thankful for that specific task that you have brought forward. Whether you meant it or not, you have brought us together with wonderful strength. And my last comment that I would like to take is I'm so saddened to see that this new business administrator, I do not know you yet personally. You have been, from my point of view, you were thrown under the bus, and I hope that is not something that continues for you. I really do wish you the best because you are now part of this team, and we only will proceed forward in success if we work together as a team. And Mr. Haynes, I also do not have yet an opportunity to get to know you, but I do wish you well because as of now, you are the leader of our children. And as always, Dr. Bender, you are an amazing, amazing individual. Keep shining bright. You deserve it. Thank you very much.
If you could please promote the next person, Mrs. Luciano. Thank you. Ma'am, you're muted, and this will be the last public comment of the night. Thank you for everyone that came out.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay. Good evening. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. This is Ingrid Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue. I just want to say I'm very disappointed in the 6 members that voted against Dr. Bender. I have been listening for a long time to the Zoom meetings. I never spoken a lot, but this time I have to say we need to bring Dr. Bender back. That has nothing, we have nothing against Dr. Haynes. I understand he was thrown in here, but I must say our children come first. Also, when it comes to masking, it should be a parent's choice. I'm not against masking if you think your child should wear a mask, but like my granddaughter is vaccinated, I think she should have the choice not to wear a mask if she's comfortable. And the board and science speaks for that. I work in a hospital through the whole pandemic, and I understand things happened, good things, bad things. But when it comes to our pediatrician, we've spoken to her numerous times. I spoke to doctors on my job who are pediatricians, who are also involved in science. And they said it should be a parent's choice. What's best for their children? What means you can mask or you do not have to mask. Thank you for listening to me. And I'm hoping that Ridgefield Park as a community wakes up and pays attention and goes out and votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Raftery.
Thank you.
And we're out. I told my wife 11. I figured it was 11. Not bad.